What's shaking, everybody? Luke Dancy here. I am back again with Marc Spelmann, and I say again because he used his mental powers and he broke my system literally with his mind. So here we are again. Marc Spelmann, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Luke. Let's
Part two.
yeah, let's
Part two.
Take two. Take two. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So Marc Spelmann's been a very busy guy. Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, performing all over the world, blowing up. But, you know, the story has to start somewhere. So, Marc, I know you were mentioning the story to me earlier. You definitely don't have to go into detail like you did before if you don't want to. But what made you jump into this world of magic and mentalism and all this fun stuff that we now do?
Okay, now watch condensed version. I promise, right? So, when I was a kid, I remember watching Doug Henning.
Yep.
On TV and seeing him do this coin appearance and vanish. It was amazing. And that was kind of the earliest sort of moment of magic that resonated with me. And I remember just sort of trying to reverse engineer it and understand how it worked. And I believe I kind of worked it out. And years later, I know I did work it out because I managed to purchase it from Tannen's Magic Shop many, many years later. But at the same time, and actually, I kind of left this out of the first take, so this is good that we're doing the second take anyway.
Right.
I remember seeing Uri Geller in the late 70s on a show where he was bending metal, bending spoons with his mind. And I remember that fascinated me as well, and just kind of really being absolutely fascinated with this notion of the impossible and the improbable. Just kind of, I was bitten by the bug, and I realized that there was this thing called magic that you could learn and practice. And I used to watch all of, you got to understand, learning magic in the sort of late 70s, early 80s is a world apart from learning magic now. You know this, Luke, as well as I do, that back then it was, there would be one or two magic shops in a city, in London, and you'd have to kind of travel all the way down to the magic shop. You might get some magic books in a library, but there was no YouTube, there was no internet. You couldn't just buy things and it would turn up at your door 2 days later. There was no explanations of anything. So all you really had was, if you were bitten by the magic bug, it would normally be by seeing magic, like in a conventional sense. A magician at a party or something, or magic on television. For me, it was magic on television. It was watching people like Uri Geller, and kind of trying to understand it, reverse engineer it. And I've got apparently what is called a topological brain, so I can watch, as an example, David Copperfield, the great David Copperfield, back in 1985, vanishing the Statue of Liberty. And my father sitting there going, no, there's only one way you vanish the Statue of Liberty, and that's with a camera trick. And I was like, it's not. It's the most beautiful optical illusion. I still believe to this day that is the biggest, large-scale illusion ever. Because if you imagine being in New York, if you leaned out of your apartment and could see the Statue of Liberty over in the distance near Ellis Island, it would have disappeared in a slightly different way, but it would have disappeared. And to me, that's unbelievable. But I understood how it worked. And so I started to kind of make notes, keep notebooks, kind of trying to create my own magic without having any resources to magic.
Right.
And it was years later, I watched a guy on television called Simon Drake. My godmother knew I was into magic and loved magic. And my study up to that point was library books and whatever you could kind of get your hands on, kind of thing. And again, there was no YouTube. You couldn't just type in magic trick in YouTube. And my godmother phoned me up and said, "Are you watching Channel 4? Put Channel 4, and there's this guy on Channel 4, you'll like it. It's right up your street. It seems a bit crazy." So I put Channel 4 on, and there's Simon Drake with this massive knife, and he sticks it through his arm, and blood goes everywhere. And I remember going, I've just fallen in love. Like, this is just right up my street. This is so like
nice.
because I love special effects as a kid as well. So I remember watching the making of Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller, with
Yep.
all the prosthetics, and I remember getting sort of like mortician's wax and kind of getting used to get. Do you remember this trick that you used to get from a joke shop? It's called a plate lifter, and it was like a little bulb, and it would have a little tube. It would go to a squeezy pad, and you could put it
Yeah.
underneath a tablecloth, and it would move a plate,
Yep.
right? And it was a gag, right? It was supposed to be a gag, and I remember sticking this underneath my skin, putting the mortician's wax over my face, going into the kitchen, and going, "Mum, check it out," and then my face would just move, like with this thing. And it's just because I watched Michael Jackson, the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. So when I saw Simon do it, to me, magic, that kind of magic, knife in arm and all that kind of stuff. To me, that is almost, it's like live special effects, unedited live special effects where you just watch these amazing things happen in your face, which is just incredible. So I ended up going to see Simon Drake in a theatre just as a fan, just wanting to watch him do his madness, and it was dark and I anybody that's not seen The Secret Cabaret, I urge you, go on Channel 4. Oh, sorry, go on YouTube. It was a show that was on Channel 4. Go on YouTube and watch some of The Secret Cabaret on YouTube. There's a few clips, and just to give you an idea of the supporting cast on The Secret Cabaret were people like the late great Ricky Jay,
Nice.
Max Maven, David Berglass, James Randi.
Wow.
You had some amazing people on this show. So it's not a magic show that is about one person. Simon is like the ringmaster, if you like, and has multiple personalities. And then you see these other acts like Ricky Jay just doing card technique, and it was the first time I watched someone with a deck of cards and just went, wow, this stuff is unbelievable. So I just was bitten by the magic bug. I sent my girlfriend at the time said, why don't you send some ideas through to this guy, Simon? We met him backstage to get things signed at the end of his show at the Hackney Empire. So ultimately sent him notes, illustrations, and I had a background in graphic design illustration, so I could illustrate anything, So I sent him these drawings, like kind of like, this would be a cool trick to do. What do you think? Sent it to the Hackney Empire. They sent it to his manager. His manager sort of opened up this envelope with these sketches of, oh, Simon, I love this. Sent it to Simon. Simon opened it up and went, God, some of this stuff's really quite quirky and weird. Who is this weirdo? Need to get in contact. Sent me this a calling card, like literally just like a card. No emails back then. That's how old I am. And literally just said, look, love your ideas. Give me a call. Phoned him up, not believing that I'm going to actually speak to Simon Drake, the guy that was on television, which just seemed bizarre. And ended up talking to him for about an hour and a half about magic, about what I loved about it. He told me about his journey. And he said, look, you should come and watch the show again. I'm doing another show at the Hackney Empire. Do you want to be on stage? And I was like, yeah, kind of. He goes, no, but just I'll grab you out of the audience. We'll do something fun. He grabbed me out of the audience, and it was bizarre. I was hung. This is the Secret Cabaret. It's bizarre. So I was hung in one part of the show and had my head cut off in another part. So it was bizarre. It was great, but amazing and bizarre. And then I started collaborating with Simon, just coming up with ideas, illustrating ideas. So Simon would work on different things like films. He would be a consultant on films. But Simon wasn't an illustrator. He couldn't illustrate. So he would do like these sort of really bad drawings and go, Mark, can you make sense of this and redraw it? And we would collaborate and come up with some great ideas for different films. And even Madame Tussauds back in the day in New York, we developed an idea for them. And then Simon sort of said to me, he goes, have you ever thought about performing? And I sort of went, no, like no one in my family's in show business. And he says, Mark, he goes, listen, you could so do it. And my first kind of proper public sort of performance really was on a radio show. So what happened with the mentalism, I've been doing magic like loads and I kind of honed in on the mentalism. Simon was asked to go on this chat show, this talk radio. You get this stuff in the States. And it was like a talk radio show about Simon's. He had a new venue that he was performing from. and it was this interview about, like, come on and tell us about this venue that you're working from. And they said to him, "Can you do some magic on the radio?" And he was like, "Not really. Like, my stuff's illusions and manipulation and that kind of thing on stage." And then he just said to me, "Mark," he goes, "You love that sort of mind reading stuff." And this is sort of like mid-90s. And I went, "Yeah." And he went, do you want to do some on the radio?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll have a go." And then I went on the radio, and we were scheduled to be 15 minutes on the radio. I started doing some mentalism, and we were on for 45 minutes and got an invite to return again. And the second time I was on for an hour and 15 minutes. It was just mentalism on the radio, which is bizarre because obviously the times that we're living in now, I love walking out on stage and performing for a live audience. That's what I love. It's one of the biggest sort of thrills of my life. It's what I do. But it's bizarre now because we're kind of going back to kind of, can you perform remotely? And I sort of think, yeah, 25 years ago, I was literally, like people phoning into a radio station and I'm doing mentalism with them over the phone. So that was my sort of step into professional mentalism, thanks to Simon Drake. I would never have thought it was a viable career option for me until Simon said to me, "Mark, you have the face of someone that could get into someone's head and read their minds." And I kind of took that as a compliment. I think it's just saying I looked a bit weird. And and then that was it. Then I started performing. Simon would get me gigs and kind of go, "Mark, got another gig for you if you want to do it." And I would, yeah, love to do it. And he would send me out on all these jobs. And I was doing mentalism and close-up magic. I love magic, and that was my journey into becoming a professional magician. And yeah, that was it. I loved magic. I love every facet of magic. There's not an avenue of magic that I don't love. I love to understand it all. I won't practice it all. I know my strengths. I know what I'm good at. But at the same time, watching someone like Arturo Becchetti, an absolute legend, like Quick Change is, again, if you haven't seen Arturo, just YouTube, you're in for a treat, but I wanted to understand it. So I would research it and read books on dove magic and card manipulation and quick change and illusions. And it was Simon that actually gifted me actually very kindly lots of books on illusions. And he would say, "How do you know this stuff?" Because I just could work it out. I'd sit there, you'd put on something like the Pendragons in their heyday, and I'd go, "Right, okay, so basically what's happening there is this, X, Y, Z." And Simon would go, "Yeah, how do you know that?" And I'd go, "I just kind of understand it." And Simon would send me these books like Jarrett by Jim Steinmeier and S.H. Sharp, Conjurer's Optical Secrets, and all these books, that are sort of these guys behind me, all these books here are like, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I would look at these books, and rather than learn from the books, it would be a confirmation of what I thought. I'd kind of go, "Oh, wow." So I was right. It was a 45-degree angled, and a tube going to the back of the, and that kind of thing. I don't want to say it all because obviously, these are secrets. Yeah. And that was it. So I established a good working career. I started performing predominantly as a mind reader, but I couldn't leave magic alone. There's some magic that I just absolutely love, and I still and to be honest with you, bending spoons and that kind of thing and bending coins isn't mentalism. It's not mentalism. Mentalism is apparently communicating non-verbally. So
why do you think, if you don't mind me asking, since you said that,
yeah,
why do you think it gets mixed in and you see a lot of people that do? Now we're getting into the real talk. You see the guys that are doing metal bending and all that, and they're doing it as though it's a mental thing. Why do you say that it's not mentalism? I'm really curious about that.
Okay, so for me, well, I guess it depends. I mean, I would say it falls into paranormal performance. It'd be a paranormal demonstration. So if you move something across the table via telekinesis. So my viewpoint on mentalism And actually, maybe you're right. Maybe mentalism is a large umbrella, and mind reading comes under mentalism. I guess maybe. So I just feel that pure. As an example, I was talking with Michael Weber in Las Vegas, and I'm talking like 15 years ago. And I remember talking about a CD prediction. So for those of you like now it's all MP3s, right? So now there used to be these things called CDs that people listen to. And I had this idea for a CD revelation. You'd send a CD in the post and it was signed and everything. And I came up with this really wonderful idea for it. And I was talking with Michael Weber about it, and he loved it. And he said to me, "The only problem is I can't predict the future." He goes, "I can't predict." So there are some mentalists that put these real restrictions in place, and maybe restrictions is the wrong word. They have their barriers. They have their guidelines as to how far they can go over that threshold, if you like, of believability. So I think most people, when you get a spoon and you rub it and it starts to bend and do all these strange contortions, I think most people, I would say 80% of the Earth's population, maybe I'm overestimating it, but 80% of the Earth's population would kind of go, I don't think he's doing that with his mind. I don't know how he's doing it, but I don't think he's doing it with his mind.
Okay.
You would still get that 20% that would think so. Whereas, and I think Darren is people like Marc Salem, who's a really good friend of mine, Darren Brown, Larry Becker. Larry Becker was so kind to me in the mid 90s, just so supportive. I did a masterclass with him at Davenport's Magic Shop, and just the loveliest guy ever. Just told me secrets that, like, wow, these are trade secrets, Larry, like proper secret, like these are just not in any of your books. But he was just such a lovely man. Such a lovely man. I kind of always, I remember having this discussion with Larry about disclaimers. Okay, so this is again real talk. All right, so this is like disclaimers. Now you have some people that come out like Banachek, again, a good friend, huge mentor,
Right.
and Larry Becker, who would walk out and they would say, I use the 5 known senses to create the illusion of a 6. And I understood why they had that disclaimer, but it didn't fit me. So I'm a believer that when I walk out on stage, and obviously it's harder for me now because of BGT and because of X, and that history that I've got now, and it's such a widespread thing. I can't come out and be the absolute definitive mind reader because I am the dad who did the dedication on Britain's Got Talent. I am the guy who dressed up as X and wore the mask and that kind of thing. So I don't think, someone like Marc Salem can be that mind reader. Max Maven can be that mind reader. I think now I've become a bit of more of a, popular culture in a way has lessened my ability to do that. But I've never really liked disclaimers. And I'll tell you why. Because if I put down on a theatre poster, mind reader and mentalist, you're going to have a cross section that comes to see your show. You're going to have some people, the large majority, I think, certainly in the UK, that come to the show and they kind of go, okay, we kind of get it. There's lots of methods and things we don't know. But, we think there's going to be some kind of like mentalism, psychological sort of techniques, body language reading, that kind of thing, neuro-linguistic programming, that kind of, and they put all those things as plausible methods. Then you'll get a smaller minority that will, no matter what you say, will just go, it's all tricks. And then you'll get that other small contingency that will go, oh my God, this is absolutely unbelievable. This guy has clearly got a gift. And they will believe it. And I'm of the belief that I'm a showman. So I walk out on stage and I will do a show. And some of the things I will deliver in a way that maybe might feel psychic. Like when I'm bending metal, and I was taught metal bending by a dear friend of mine, Colin Klaus, aka Street Magic, who has been X's right-hand man all the way through. and two guys called Urban Magic. And if you go on YouTube and type in Urban Magic, they're two magicians, and their metal bending routines are the best that I've ever seen. And they taught me some of their techniques. Now, I never present metal bending as though it's, an illusion. I don't kind of go, it looks like it's bending. What I do is I do a couple of the bends, but then I put everything else in their hands. So that now are you doing a trick? I just think to myself, leave that doorway slightly ajar. And I think when you walk out on stage and you say, I'm using the five known senses to create the illusion of a six, I think you can almost feel that you're watching a lecture, someone that's going to be going, I'm using sort of, I think my theory is you take some of that mystery away a little bit, like a what if. And I know that's not how everybody thinks. And some people go and watch Derren Brown and truly believe that they are watching a master of body language and neuro-linguistic programming. NLP is the popular term, when they watch his shows.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they will go there and they will absolutely believe they're watching a master of that. And that's fine. And that's his, that's his, I kind of guess, USP. But for me, I love mystery, and I kind of, in my early days of performing, I used to have people that would sort of kind of say, yeah, okay, but there's obviously there's some sort of trick to this. And I would argue it, and I would kind of try and go, no. Well, look, you looked at the cards; they were all different. You held them, you this, you that, and I'd almost get this thing of like really trying to establish, like this, like no, and trying to dispel the notions that they had. And then I would also get some people. I remember bending a spoon for a woman, for a group of people, and there was this one woman, and she was watching me bend this spoon, and she went, "Okay, I get what you're doing." And in my head, I'm thinking, wow, okay, she clocked onto my techniques, or the urban magic and Colin techniques that I've learned. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. And then at the end of it, she kind of said it a couple of times, and at the end, it finished the performance. Everyone was going, "Oh my God, that was amazing." They all disperse, and this woman was still with me, and she goes, like, "I have to ask, do you do Reiki massage? I mean, clearly you're an expert in chi, like that, the energy that we have." And I thought, oh wow, okay. So her viewpoint is, I understand what you're doing. You're a master of chi and Reiki. And for those of you that don't know what chi and Reiki is, it is like an energy source that we have that I don't have. Some people think they have it, and fine, I don't. But her belief in that moment was that I was using an other kind of energy to bend these spoons. And the interesting point is this: if I turn around and I say to that woman, no, are you crazy? I'm using this technique and this technique. What does that do? I'm not going to change her beliefs. She's kind of in that space of chi and Reiki and that kind of thing, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Equally, my job is not to make you believe or not believe anything. Life is too short. I'm not a religious person, so I don't have a religion, but I have values, and my religion, it sounds cheesy as anything, my religion is genuinely the religion of love. It really is. I meet people, I want the best for people, and I like to be with people that just, let's just get on. It's such a blink of an eye that we're here on earth. So let's just try and get on. We're all going to be a bit different. We're all going to have slightly different beliefs. Let's not that encroach on us just getting on with each other. So I'm not here to disprove psychics. I'm not here to disprove clairvoyance. I'm not here to disprove the Christian faith, or, if you believe in Muhammad or, Buddha or whatever it is you believe. I'm a showman. I'm an entertainer, and I'm a showman. And I like to blur the line between reality and illusion, and I like to blur that in many different ways. And now, interestingly enough, I don't really get asked the question ever since being on sort of TV. I don't really get asked the question. People just kind of go, "Oh, it's the guy from BGT or AGT or whatever." But before that, in the mature years of my career, I like to call it, where I kind of was not this young guy just running around doing close-up gigs and whatever. I really started to think about what I was doing. I started to think to myself, do you know what? Some people would say to me, well, clearly that's a trick. And I would go, maybe it is. And some people, the classic line, oh my God, how do you do that? And I would say to people, however you think I did it, probably is the right answer. And I love that ambiguity.
Wow.
Because now, if someone believes that I really read their minds and I could duplicate their drawing by some sort of sixth sense or some sort of connection or neuro-linguistic programming. I used to do this routine with ESP cards where I would talk about apparently reading body language throughout the whole routine. And then I'd go, look, I've been lying to you throughout this whole demonstration. I've been completely lying to you. It's not about body language. It's not about any of that. And I'll show you. And then I'd get them to choose another symbol under test conditions. And then I'd go, none of body language or NLP techniques would make any sense under these restrictions. It just wouldn't make sense because you don't even know what it is. So if you don't know what it is, how can I read your body language? How can I influence you to take a particular card? Because someone just mixed them up. You don't even know what order they're in. And I would finish the routine and then I'd tell them, so it's the three wavy lines. And they'd open up their hands and go, oh my God, it's the three wavy lines. And I remember doing it, and this guy, it was at the London Aquarium. I just remember these weird facts, but I remember this guy turning around to his friend and going, see what I mean? NLP, unbelievable, my friend, right? And in my head, I'm going, no, I've just totally told you it's absolutely not NLP. It can't be. But whatever people believe, they're going to believe, and I think my life is too short to convert the world, I just want you to if you have religion as a way of guidance and making you a better person, then I applaud you to follow that religion. If you don't have any religion at all, but you believe in, spiritualism or another energy force or positivity and love, and that makes you a better person, then I applaud you to follow that. For me, I just look at life and I look at the blink of an eye that we are here for. And in my mind, I just think to myself, it's over. Like we think it's this big, meaningful thing, but my goodness, like life comes and goes so quickly.
Yep.
And I just sort of think in the moment I'm here, if I can be a benefit for those around me, if I can be a benefit for the world, my goodness, what an incredible platform. But if I can be a benefit for those that are around me and be people speak of me in a positive light, never a negative light. And you can't please all the people all the time, but you get my point. Then that's it. That's what I must do. So that's my religion. My religion is treat other people how I would like to be treated, and just have respect. And that's my thing. So
feel that.
So yeah. So I don't have disclaimers. I don't tell people that I'm not really reading their minds. I don't tell them that I am.
Sure.
I just think ambiguity. Let's just keep it ambiguous. Why tell them anything? Let them come to their own conclusions.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, Darren Brown is a name you mentioned that definitely he's on that fine line of believability. And I like to call that type of stuff real magic, because people don't know what's real and what's not. And minimalism is full of that, because unlike magic, if you were to levitate an object, you could not have an answer other than what is probably really happening for something to float or levitate. But with minimalism, you've got all these techniques, like you said, NLP, you've got body language, you've got influence, you've got all these different things, so they don't know. So it actually could be, and you could be this expert that you are claiming to be, which is really fascinating to me.
I think. Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Really, really quickly. I'll tell you a really interesting thing. I think sometimes as well, it's about how we perform these things. I'll give you a really quick story. Okay, So I love and adore Michael Lamar, right? I really do. I bought his book from Tannen's back in the day and read it like it was the Holy Bible. And I don't do the
Nice.
cups and balls, but I've read it and studied it, right? So Michael Lamar, absolutely love him to bits. And I remember this talk about his floating dollar bill, and I remember thinking to myself, God, I just have to find this. Like, where can I find this? So I found it, and you could buy it, a manuscript with photocopied instructions, back in the day, and think, I love it, but there was too much magic motions in it for me. So now let me quickly go back to the mid '90s, where I was there was a nightclub in London called Stringfellows, which was a really, really popular nightclub. And I remember I used to sort of pop into Stringfellows whenever I was in London. I'd pop into Stringfellows nightclub, and they called them the bus boys, the guys, the waiters that kind of collect the glasses, and the real workers. And they got to know me as this guy that did magic. Oh my God, it's like Magic Marc, right? So I got this reputation, and I remember they just loved the magic that I was doing, but I had this air of kind of mystery because I wouldn't do magic. I wouldn't, I was very selective over the magic that I would do. I wanted it to blur, to kind of almost feel like this is a real thing. Very much like what David Blaine does. David Blaine does a magic trick, but because of his persona, you kind of go, "What? This guy's just weird," and it freaks me out. Um, so I think it has a different feel. So I think how we present magic can change. So as an example, a perfect thing when you just hit the nail on the head when you said floating an object. So they came up to me and they said, "Can we get you a drink?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll have a whatever." So they came back with this drink and they said, "Can you show us some magic?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course I can." So they came back, and I had set up to float a dollar bill, and that's all I'll say. I won't go any further than that. Magicians will understand, but I was prepared to float a not a dollar bill, a £5 note. And as I went to float this £5 note, and I love doing things in a more like energy driven way. So I wouldn't do this kind of thing. I wouldn't do any of this. It would be very much a raw, organic parting of the hands, and it's there momentarily, and then grabbing it, and that's it. That's all that it was. It was that
Okay.
moment,
Okay.
and I got that from the late great Barry Richardson, a mentalist, theory of the mind. And I
Hmm.
remember reading his book. And you can imagine Barry Richardson is friends with, or was friends with, people like David Berglas and Max Maven. I mean, huge, you know, and such a long career. In Barry Richardson's book, Theatre of the Mind, I think it's in part of his introduction. He talks about one of the most magical moments of his life, the most magical thing he ever saw. Now, imagine this is a guy that hangs out with David Berglas and Max Maven and Larry Becker, and these are all chums, right? He talks about this time being in India where he was walking along a market with, I think, his wife. They were on holiday in India, and they come to this little sort of group huddle of people all crowded around this little boy. And he's sitting there, and everyone, there's almost like a little chanting thing going on. Some people are playing little instruments, and this little boy is sitting there for a long time. He's got this candle in front of him, and he's sort of doing this, kind of saying this Indian dialect, maybe some sort of mantra or something. And Barry Richardson's standing there, and he's looking down, and he's watching this moment, thinking, what is this? And then this candle, this tiny little candle, like a sort of candle that Eugene Berger would have, the little candle, it rises off the floor by about an inch, and everyone just freezes looking at this moment. And Barry Richardson's looking at it, it's broad daylight, and he's kind of going, "Oh my God," and he looks at this reaction of people around him, and then it just drops to the floor, and then that's it. And Barry Richardson says, he goes, "For me, in that moment, because it wasn't a show, I'm not prepared to what." And I think that hobbyists, people that are hobbyists, and I say this in all my lectures, if you were a hobbyist, we use that term, and some people feel it's a bit of a derogatory. "Oh, you're a hobbyist." I think hobbyists have the best avenue for performing magic, because when you and I are at a corporate event and we approach that group of people at the drinks reception, they go, all right, okay, magician, time for magic. Not that that's a bad thing, but they're ready for a show. Now, someone like, is it the Carbonara Effect, the show that's very popular in America? Um, I can't remember. I can't remember his name, but Carbonara. I'm sure it's Carbonara. But he does magic in everyday scenarios, and you see the difference that magic gets in an environment where magic isn't supposed to be happening. So, as a hobbyist, I think hobbyists have got this great. So, anyway, by the by, I'm in the bar. I'm prepared to float this £5 note, and then lo and behold, they walk over and they say, can you show us something? And I say, yeah, have a look at this £5 note. They take a look at the £5 note and I say, I need you all to focus in with me, and we're going to get our energy, because I want to show you something unbelievable, all based upon Barry Richardson's anecdote of being in India. I thought, I love that, this minimalistic moment of like, what did I even see that? So I put my hands over this £5 note. They crumbled it up into a ball, put it in between my hands, and then I realized I wasn't mentally prepared to float this £5 note. My concentration had broken, and I realized this £5 note was not going to float. But rather than say, oh, it's not going to work, I'll have to do this later, I said, everyone focus. If you're not convicted in your energy, if you're not, absolutely committed to this, it will not work. And I literally 60 seconds, which and I know, in a performance of an effect is a long time. I held my hands and I waited and waited. And I parted my hands and I just said, I don't know why, for whatever reason, this isn't going to happen now. Maybe I'm tired. I'm not sure. Maybe some of you are not believing that this is going to work. And they also went, no, take your time. They handed me my drink. And they said, maybe try later. And then they all went off and did what they had to do. They came back. And I said, look, I think I might be ready now. So I was now prepared again to, use the forces that be.
The force, use the force.
Use the force.
That's great.
And then same thing. I absolutely had the conviction of everyone there, focus in your energy, focus, absolutely believe we can do this. And then I had got them to put their hands on mine and everything. We're all there together. And I said, really believe that we can do this. It's not going to last long, I can tell you. Parted our hands and it was there. And then I grabbed it from the air and I gave it to one of the waiters. And I just said, that's from me to you for getting the drink. Thank you. And he walked away. And in that moment, I truly believe, and maybe I'm disillusioned, but in that moment for those people, it didn't feel like a magic performance, even though I floated a £5 note in front of them. It didn't feel like a magic trick. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to tell you that story because, you saying, but I believe it's the conviction that we can have. If we can have absolute commitment and conviction in it being something else,
yep.
Which I think Geller, again, listen, look,
Uri Geller, yeah.
Geller says he's a psychic, and that's absolutely fine. To me, Geller is. I respect Geller in the fact that like magicians love to think that we are the beholders of secrets. But I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes magicians are the worst keepers of secrets.
Yes, they are. Oh my God.
They spill the beans.
Terrible.
You gotta go, no, don't say that. Don't tell anyone. And I think to myself, with someone like Geller, whatever techniques he claims to use, whatever he does use, he's always kept it to himself. And for that, I have to respect him for that element. And I think that there's something to take from that. And I think good magic, good performance, you can take from everything. Look at actors, someone like Andy Nyman. Here's a story for you, very quick one. I remember watching Derren Brown before he was famous perform, and his technique was amazing. His technique was absolutely flawless, and he was doing stuff with cards. I mean, playing cards. His technique was absolutely flawless, but his connection with the audience wasn't as good. It just didn't seem to gel that night with this particular. It was. I mean, this is like a small, tiny theatre above a pub, a bar, and this is before he was famous. And I remember thinking, wow, he's amazing technique, but it just didn't. Whatever it did not connect with the audience. And then I remember Andy Nyman telling me back in the day at Davenport's, where I used to demonstrate, he had just turned down this offering to be a mentalist on Channel 4. He wanted to pursue his acting career, but he said, I think they're going to go with another guy, and that was Derren. But they said to Andy Nyman, would you come in and consult on the program? And when you watch Derren Brown, who I adore, I think Derren Brown is an absolute master. And I say that like David Copperfield and David Blaine are two magicians who will go down in history like Houdini. I truly believe people will speak about David Blaine, some of the iconic imagery that he's created. I think he will go down in history as a modern day Houdini. I think David Copperfield is just, I mean, boy, the shoulders that he's created that people stand on, is just taken magic to and illusions and even TV magic and illusion to a whole different playing field. But I think Derren will be that, like how people speak of like Chan Canasta or, Dunninger or someone like that. I think, Derren will be spoken about in those terms. So I adore them. But Andy Nyman working with Derren Brown, you could just see how an actor in Andy, the scripting, just merged with Derren's absolute undeniable skill and showmanship and created this masterpiece that is Derren Brown. And, for me, and that's why I've always gravitated to learning as much magic from everywhere. And not even just magic. We were talking about, before we came on live, we were talking about Vegas and Cirque du Soleil. And if someone says to me, what's the most magical show you've ever seen in your life? What's the most magical thing you've ever seen, like in terms of a show?
Yeah.
I would say at the Bellagio.
It's pretty epic.
It's watching at the Bellagio. When those dancers and those acrobats ran across the water that everyone was just diving in, I just went, I'm in a theatre and I'm watching this. This is just unbelievable. It was beautiful. And I remember when I took Peter Nardi to see O, and I said to him, listen, at any point during that performance, you could take a photograph of the stage, blow it up on a canvas, and it would be a piece of art. And that's how I look at O. It's just a feast for the eyes, the ears, and the soul. So for me, something like O, I just look at it and I go, how can we drag that? How can we get that emotion, the visuals? How can we put that into magic? And David Copperfield's done that for years. Like bringing emotion into magic and storytelling.
Oh yeah.
So I think that, the most important thing is, listen, obviously magic is very much about secrets and learning techniques and methods.
Should be.
But to me, the methods and techniques are 40%. The other 60% is so much more. It's who you are. It's what you do. It's what do you make your audience feel. And that's the most important thing for me, is what did your audience go away with? That's it. What did they go away with? And that's the most important thing, like without a shadow of a doubt.
And I would wholeheartedly say that one of the biggest reasons that you made such a impression on Britain's Got Talent is because you humanized yourself and you opened yourself up. You seemed vulnerable. You were sharing things about your life, but there was a true connection because of that. And I think that's the other part that a lot of people are missing, or maybe they're just afraid to do it. I mean, that's you're putting yourself out there, when you're getting that personal with America or Britain, or you are like, that's a tough thing. And But look what it did for you, and the
Yeah,
people loved it.
I originally planned to go on Britain's Got Talent back in 2000. It was 2015.
Okay.
A friend of mine called Jamie Raven came second on the show.
Hmm.
And me and Jamie used to gig together. I mean, I remember being in Portugal with Jamie and we'd done a gig. I mean, for next to no money. I mean, like really, the diary was dead. We're in Portugal. We've been flown over economy and we're kind of just like doing this gig for like next to no money. And then fast forward a year, there's Jamie coming second. I mean, he should have won, but second on Britain's Got Talent. And his career just blossomed. And in my mind, I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm not getting any younger. I've written so many concepts for TV shows. I mean, like so many. I mean, if I showed you my catalog of, I mean, and I storyboard the whole thing. So, you know, when you get a pitch from Marc Spelmann, it comes with every, like storyboarded and everything. For whatever reason, I just never got it. Never ever got it. I said to Tessa, when I pass away on my grave, it'd be Marc Spelmann, the nearly man. He nearly did it. And that's me. That's just part of my persona. The glass is half empty. You know, it's half full, not half empty. And so, you know, I remember thinking to myself, I'll go on Britain's Got Talent in 2016. I'll apply and go through the process, and I'll go on, and I will be Marc Spelmann, the mind reader. I'll do some amazing sort of routine confabulation, some prediction thing or something like that, but very conventional mind reading. And then life turned upside down, and my wife was diagnosed with cancer. We were trying for a baby. There was, you know, people can hear this elsewhere, but you know, and if you watch Britain's Got Talent, it will tell you in a nutshell what happened to me and Tessa during that period of time. Trying for a baby, Tessa gets pregnant, then gets diagnosed with cancer, and everything goes up in the air. And I took myself out of performing for 2 years. I stopped performing. I thought, I want to raise my daughter. She made it into the world, as people know. And Tessa beat her cancer. And I thought, right, wow, I have to reevaluate. And it's almost like turning the computer on and off to reboot. And I rebooted. And when I rebooted, I realized that life for me had changed. And in actual fact, I had changed as a human being. Instead of being a career-driven, hungry, ambitious, mind-reader guy that was desperate to get on television, I now became this person who just thought, God, every moment in life is a gift. It really is. And just stop thinking about the end goal and just enjoy the journey, because we never know we never know if we're ever going to reach the end goal. We really don't. And we don't know when our time is up. You know, like, you know, one of my greatest heroes in my life is my godfather. He was the person when I was a teenager debating whether or not, you know, like, I don't know, is there any future in magic for me, or is it something I could do? He said to me, he goes, pursue your dreams. You know, he goes, I would love to have been this, and this. And I sell central heating for a living. And he said, do you think I want to do that every day? But I've got bills to pay. You're young, go with your dream. And if you fail, get a job. But go for your dreams. And he was he died when he was 40 years old, had a massive heart attack, was as fit as anything, but he had a diseased heart, didn't know about it, and one night passed away. And he was the biggest hero to me. Like, everything I do now, he's here. I'm not religious. I don't believe, I hear his voice in everything I do. So I'm a perfectionist, because he was. So he would look at it and go, you know what, Mark, if you built that again or change that around, you could do it better. And I'd go, oh God, Dave, all right, okay, I'll do it again, you know. And so but his time was up when he was 40. Now, he never knew that, you know. In his mind, he might have thought 60, 65, 70, who knows, but his time was up that night. And he you know, he won't know this, but he changed my life. You know, we got on so well. And, you know, even speaking about him, honestly, it gets me. And he died in 1993. So we're talking like, you know, a long, long time ago. But that's how much he still lives. Not in a spiritual sense, but he lives in me, in my heart, in my mind. I hear his voice. You know, he inspired me to do what I do. And that's where I don't need religion, you know, because I know that if I can be the best that I can be, then maybe in some way I can inspire someone else. And if I inspire one person or two people or a group of people, then that's a good thing to be able to do. So anyway, so life changed for me, and I realized that, like, life is about moments. When you think about what life is a series of moments. We collect memories. That's what it is. That's what we do. And we never know when that collection process is over. So collect the best memories that you can, live in every moment, make the best of it. And if you make mistakes, if you fall and you don't get what you want or what you think you deserve, see those as lessons. Never see failure as failing. See it as a mistake that leads you to hopefully succeeding. And you might not succeed where you think you should succeed, but you will succeed where life takes you. So for me, I always thought it was about being this mind reader and being like the sort of next kind of David Blaine, Derren Brown on UK TV. That's not happened. That's not where I am.
Right.
But instead, my life, for all of its ups and downs, took me to Britain's Got Talent in a completely different sense. I ended up on Britain's Got Talent talking about what I believe is real magic. And this is something that I really wanted to hit home with you. And I want to say this again and again in every interview that I do. Real magic exists. And people, and this was a line, I would used to get this line when you're performing and you get the skeptics. And an American audience, just for your American viewers, an American audience, they're the best because Americans just love to suspend their disbelief. The English audiences, I love them, but they can be so cynical. They go, okay, all right, okay, sure, he just made the girl disappear, right, okay. Whereas the Americans would turn around and go, whoa, Timmy, you see the girl disappear? And you kind of go, I love that. Just suspend your, just go with it. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd get this question where people would sort of say things like, well, real magic it's not real magic, I know that. And it was a really interesting thing that you hear a lot in the UK. And I thought to myself, do you know what, though? I think whether or not real magic exists or not is determined by what you define magic as. Magic is like, it's open-ended. What is magic? It's almost like, what is love?
Wow.
It's such an open, what is magic? For me, I now define magic as a feeling. It doesn't belong to a magician. It's not the property of the magician. Magic is the property of the person having a feeling of magic. And that feeling of magic, I think as magicians, we artificially create a moment of wonder. That's what ultimately, if we do our job well, hopefully that's what we do. Now, that moment in an audience might last for 5 seconds. It might last for 5 days. It might last for their entire lives. But we use techniques, principles, illusions, perception, and bend reality to create a moment of wonder and a brief moment of astonishment. And one of my favorite magicians for thinking outside the box is Paul Harris. So behind me on my shelf somewhere around here is The Art of Astonishment books by Paul Harris. And he talks about the moment of astonishment. And it's really important. It's a really good read. And for me, I talk about that as being real magic as opposed to astonishment.
Sure.
And real magic, I believe, is a feeling. So as magicians, we create that moment of, oh my God, that's unbelievable. That's amazing. And for a moment, for an audience, everything else stops.
Yeah.
And there's a pinpoint focus is on what just happened. But I believe there is that moment in other things. So as an example, you can listen to a piece of music and it can lift you. It can change your spirits. You can put a song comes on the radio or on your playlist or whatever, and it just changes your dynamic. You can watch a film and it changes you, like your whole demeanor, how your mindset going into that film and coming out of that film is changed. And for me, that can be magical. There's a film called Lion, which is about a young boy in India. Watch this film, and I applaud if you come out of that film or finish watching that film and your heart is not filled with just enlightenment, love, emotion, then you haven't watched the film. You fell asleep halfway through, basically. And like what I'm saying to you with something like I went in to watch just thinking, oh, what's this show everyone's talking about? Oh, okay, booked my tickets, turned up with Tess, and we sat there and watched this show, and just came out at the end of it and just went, oh my God, what did we just see? It's like indescribable. Like, it's beautiful, and to me, that's where magic lies. Magic lies in beauty, I guess, in a way. And when my daughter was born, under the conditions that we had Isabella, it was and will forever be the most magical moment of my life. Nothing will ever beat that moment. When she was tiny. She held my finger, and I've got a photograph. And I show the photograph on the audition of Britain's Got Talent. I had my mobile phone, and I just said to the nurse, "Can I take a picture?" And she, "Of course you can." And I said, "Can I touch her?" And she said, "Yeah, of course." And I put my finger down and just touched her. She was tiny. I mean, she was 3 months premature. And you're sterilized and everything else. And I put my hand down. I put my hand on her chest, and her finger held my finger. So her hand gripped my finger. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like that moment that she held my finger. It was like a change in the energy that was in my body.
That's awesome.
It was just full. It was just undeniable love and magic. And that's where I think magic lies. I think magic is within the person that is experiencing it. It's not for us. We create illusions and that kind of thing. Musicians write music. It's what happens to the receiver that determines whether or not it's magic or not. That's my belief. So
wow. And there's people are really digging on this a lot. People are, especially the philosophical stuff here, people are really appreciating that, because look, anybody can go to a magic shop and buy a trick. Anybody can do that. You could buy a magic DVD, a book, whatever. But this is what I like to call the real work. This is the stuff that it takes you to the next level. This is what makes you a real magician. And I'm curious, as a mild segue, it's hard to ignore what's over your left shoulder there. There they are. Oh yeah.
This guy.
The alter ego popping up here. They're the two sides of Marc Spelmann, and I am genuinely curious from you. Everything that you're saying, was that amplified as X? Was that a symbol of you taking all this stuff that you grew and you learned from, putting it into X, or was this a totally different way for you to express yourself?
No. Listen, I think you've absolutely nailed it. Everything. If you listen to when you watch X, the very first audition, and no one knew it was me, right? So when you watch that first audition as X, I write everything that X says. So I always say that X, if you watch the final, when I take the mask off, it says X is the best of me. Mm-hmm. So X almost became this sort of alter ego that is the best of me. Like non-judgmental, absolutely empathic. And I've really tried in my life, as life has gone on and I've gone through different things, I think the most important thing in life is to have empathy. Yeah. And that is never judge a man, never judge another person, man. Never judge another man or woman until you've walked in their shoes and until you've seen the world through their eyes. Because I think it's so easy to stand, sort of away from people and cast judgment. And I think that's a privileged position to be in, really, because there are some people in this world that really don't, life is tough, Yeah. And like when I talk about my story with Tessa and Isabella, believe me when I tell you this, we are lucky. Like, we are absolutely lucky because, we have Isabella and Tessa beat her cancer. Some of the stories that we would have people reach out to us, send us messages. Your story, absolutely. Me and my husband were in tears watching the story. We've been trying for a child for 10 years. We've given up now. It's just not going to work. We can't. And you kind of go, oh my God, like this is, like, God, are we lucky? And I there's a saying, and that is what what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think every challenge in life that you have, just take it as a lesson, you know. And as an example, when I think about my godfather passing away, you know, at age 40, my godfather Dave used to talk to me. He used to say to me, he could do anything. It was amazing. He could build anything. He built an extension on his house on his own, and I just, how do you do this? You know, he was just so gifted. And I remember I said to him I said, look, if ever I get enough money, would you build my house? And he said, of course. He goes, we'll do it together. And that never happened. You know, obviously, it never, ever happened. And I remember that conversation because he was so clever. And there's two ways that I can look at the passing of my godfather. And that is, I could be angry or upset or frustrated that he went. So he never saw any of this. He never saw any of BGT. He never met Isabella. He never met Tessa. He never saw these moments where I got a moment to shine. And, you know, part of me can be angry about that. Or I can be truly grateful that I had that man in my life. For as short as it was, you know, he died in 93. So I was 22 when he died. So, you know, I'm grateful. You know, here's a man who still lives with me in one way or another to this day. Aren't I lucky that I had that? You know, that's how I look at it. Aren't I lucky? And with Tessa and Isabella and what we went through, aren't I lucky that I've got a wife that beat cancer? Aren't I lucky that I've got a daughter after sort of all that time of trying for a baby? Aren't I lucky? So that's the change in me as a human being. Aren't I lucky that I'm talking to Luke Dancy about a moment in my life that so many people have connected with? Aren't I lucky? And I am, and I'm truly honored to be sitting here talking to you. And I mean that. I'm not just, these are not just words. I mean it. You know, the people that reach out to me on Instagram and on, you know, on Twitter and on Facebook and oh, you know, you're the greatest magician. My God, you know, I'm not, but thank you. That's just so kind of you to say that. And if I inspire anyone to do magic or to maybe try to be the best that they can be in this world, then my goodness, you know, forget the TV shows, forget the I am the next whoever. That doesn't matter, you know. I've done something that maybe people might remember, you know, for a while, and that's the thing. And X is for me. There was two things that I wanted to do with X. One, I wanted to finish the story. I never got to finish it, so I wanted to come back, and I knew I couldn't come back as me, so I knew that I'd have to adopt a different persona. And I thought, wow. You know, and I dreamt this idea back in 2011 for one of the many TV ideas that I created. Was this thing called Prank, and it was this magician who is faceless, nameless, who creates moments of wonder and astonishment, but about life, you know, about meaning, about life, and about everything around us, you know. And that was my concept of Prank originally. But then when I didn't make it through to the final Britain's Got Talent, Prank then became X. And the name X came about whereby I had the application form to apply again. And I'm looking at the thing where it just said name of act. And I just thought, X. And I just wrote an X. And I just thought that's the name, X. So that was the how the identity, the look of X came about. That's the origins of the look. In terms, I remember telling Tessa, I'm going to go on Britain's Got Talent again, and I'm going to go on. And she was like, Mark, how can you go on again? And I said, no, I'm not going to go on as me. I'm not going to go on as the dad that tells this story. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to break convention. I'm going to go on Britain's Got Talent with no identity. No backstory, completely the polar opposite to what I went on as before. You know, the year I went on before, I was the dad with the wife that beat cancer, the daughter, this story, this emotive story. I'm going to challenge convention, and I'm going to go back on as no one. X.
It's beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
So that's how. But then I remember Tessa saying to me, "People recognize your voice," and I went, "I'll change it." So I went onto my computer. I do a lot of stuff in Premiere Pro, and I spoke these lines, readjusted them.
So cool.
Changed the pitch, put a voice changer stuff on them, and it sounded demonic. And I thought, no, that doesn't work. And then a really good friend of mine, a lady called Melanie, one of Tessa's best friends in the world, she's got a very nice English speaking accent, very English and quite sort of well spoken. And I said to her, look, Mel, I'm going to tell you this secret. I might be going back on Britain's Got Talent. Do you want to help me out? She was like, yes. I said, can I record your voice? She went, yes. So when you hear X, that's Melanie's voice adjusted sort of robotically. And the reason why the voice has changed for a psychological point of view is if you imagine your scariest image in your mind, like imagine the scariest demon, monster, whatever you want. Now give it a female voice, and immediately it changes it. It might still be a bit scary, but it's not as scary, especially with a female voice, because a female voice is one of nurturing, motherly. We trust a female voice more so than we do a male voice. Stereotypes, sorry, generalizing, but you get my point. So that's how X's voice became a female voice, and also to disguise that it was me. And I remember Tessa saying another thing that Tessa said was, how are people going to connect with someone that looks like that? How are people going to connect with a hooded, mask wearing weirdo with no story? And I said, the way that they will connect with X is not by who X is, but by what X represents.
Yeah.
And X, for me, represents, as I say, the best of me. I don't care what religion you practice. I don't care about the color of your skin. I don't care how much money you earn. I don't care whether you're famous or not. All I genuinely care about in this life is what's in your heart. That's all I care about. And for me, if you've got a good heart, then I want to know you, Nice. and I will share my time with you, and I will help you in whatever way I can. If you are a good heart, then that's it. That's good enough for me. That's all that matters. Because I know lots of people that got money, and I know lots of people that are famous. I wouldn't really want to spend that much time with some of them, but then some of them are amazing. I mean, just off, to name drop Eric Clapton, arguably one of the greatest guitarists in the world, is the most humble, beautiful, kind man. I remember performing some magic for him. I should have given you a picture of me with Eric Clapton. I've got this lovely picture of me and Eric Clapton. And I remember doing some magic for Eric Clapton, and him looking at my... Now, imagine, this is Eric Clapton, right? I mean, this is the god, Eric Clapton, right? He looked at my hands as I was shuffling the cards and sort of just doing some magic. And he just went, oh my God, he goes, you've got beautiful hands, the way your hands move. And I just sort of, I remember looking at him going, sorry, you do know that you're Eric Clapton, right? and he laughed, and he was so lovely. And just, I remember just saying, look, Eric, so unprofessional, I know, can I get a picture with you? And he went, of course, I'd love to get a picture with you. Cool. So we did this picture, and like you meet, they say, don't meet your heroes or your idols because you might be disappointed. Yeah. Well, I've met a few of my heroes and a few of my idols. I met George Michael, the late, great George Michael. He was so sweet, so shy, such a lovely man. Eric Clapton as well, really, really lovely as well. So there are some that you can meet. And that's it. So, that's my philosophy. That's what X is all about. X is about just being, and I've got this line that I say a lot where I say we all can be X if we want to be. And I say that line in the final of Britain's Got Talent. I say that on AGT Champions, where I say we can all be X if we want to be. And obviously that's a really good line for when Shin Lim comes in and Shin Lim becomes X, and it's like the sort of like the what you call it, the coming full circle with the dialogue, which kind of works. At the beginning, I said we could all be X if we want to be, and that includes, and then Shin takes the mask off. But that line, we can all be X if we want to be, It's something that I put up on my social media way before I was on AGT Champions. And what that means is we can all be better, because that's what X is. X is the best of me. So we can all be better. We can all be kinder. We can all, don't be envious or jealous or whatever. Just, in this life, I used to look at other magicians succeeding, and I used to be so envious and jealous. I did, like watching Dynamo succeed where I tried so hard. I'd go, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. And now listen, it's not about that, And Dynamo's an amazing magician. More so, to me, such a humble guy. Like, Dynamo just is. He's so successful. He's worth a few pounds, a few dollars between us. But you wouldn't know it if you sat down with him. You'll speak to the same guy that absolutely loved magic and is mad about magic as you would have done 10 years ago. And that, for me, speaks volumes. Not about him as a magician, but about him as a human being. And therefore, I go, I'm happy for your success. I really am.
That's cool.
So yeah.
There was one thing I was going to show that I was curious if the show itself was trying to mess with people. I've got this image, and it's not the best one, but it'll give you an idea. I'm going to cut off part of my screen here. It's
okay.
Elizabeth from BGT, as you know, the same year X was on, and she dressed a little similar to X in a lot of black. And I was just curious if that was something that was intentional, or if that was something that just kind of happened by itself.
Totally just happened. It was really interesting. So Elizabeth is, she was great on the show. Really some good moments, viral moments on the show.
Yeah.
And I never met her because obviously as X, I would literally, some people question this, but people did not know it was me. Like, Russ Stevens, right? So
very well, yeah.
You're Russ, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So Russ knew it was me. So Russ was my avenue in, because Russ helped me loads when I was Marc Spelmann in 2018.
Okay.
And Russ was my kind of segue in, and just managed to kind of like not, push a few barriers away that would have been really tricky for me to do incognito. And it became a really interesting thing because, we really toyed with the idea, like, how far can I go in this process, genuinely being unknown? And I'll give you a bit of an insight. So to answer your question, no, that was completely accidental.
Okay.
What Elizabeth said at the end of her performance on BGT, she said something like the night is not over, or something like that, or there is more to come, something like that. And then people then saw this character come on, and people became detectives, like going, get it right. So she's back on again in the mask. And, I've got quite a large posterior, like a large backside, like something that I've got from my mother, right? So when you see X on stage, people thought that X was a woman, which is quite embarrassing, really, because there's a questioning my masculinity, right? Guys, obviously I'm a guy, right? Come on. So no, that completely accident, but genuinely a happy accident for me, because it took the heat off me. Yeah. Everyone started just sort of going, oh, well, it's obvious Elizabeth. And that was perfect for me. Yeah. Maybe it's Elizabeth. You keep on thinking that, because it's me kind of sneaking along doing this stuff. But and I want to when I was on America's Got Talent, the Champions, I got through to the semi-finals, and I didn't go any further. I crashed out in the semi-finals. And I remember I was in my dressing room packing all the bits and pieces away, and then my producer. So on these shows, you typically have a producer, someone who looks after you. For me, obviously, as X, I had Russ, so it was great because Russ would just like, you don't need to know who X is. He just wouldn't. No one knew who X was, right? But I always wondered. Simon Cowell is the boss. Right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Sure. It's his concept, right? So he is the boss. And I always wondered, did he know? Because surely Simon Cowell says, "Listen, I want to know, otherwise it doesn't go any further." It'd be like, "Yeah, it's Marc Spelmann from last year." So on AGT Champions, I came out in the semi-finals, and so I'm putting all my stuff away, and then my producer calls up, "Hey, Marc, Simon wants you to go down to his dressing room." And I was like, "Right, okay." And I was this was like radioed through to my dressing room. And I'm on the phone to Tessa, kind of saying, "Yeah, I didn't go so well. I don't think I'm going to get through to the finals." It kind of did. My semi-final just didn't go the way. There's lots of technical stuff that just didn't quite go my way. And I'm on the phone to Tessa. She's back in the UK now. And I'm just saying it didn't quite work out. And I go, "Tess, I got to go. Apparently, I got to go down and see Simon." And she went, Simon. I went, "Simon." So put the phone down to Tessa, went into Simon's dressing room, and it was just me and Simon. Wow. And it was the most surreal moment, right? Because obviously I've met Simon because of BGT and everything else, but I think people think that you end up having this kind of relationship. "Hey, Si, give us a call, we'll have lunch." It doesn't work like that. This is a show that has hundreds and hundreds of acts. And Simon, once he finishes BGT, he's on a plane over to LA to do AGT. I mean, he's a busy guy. So this was the first time that me and Simon had sat in a room together, no one else around, just me and Simon. And we sat there, and Simon was like, he was so wanting me to get through to the final on AGT Champions, because he knows what I'm like. He knows that there was something, I was brewing something up for that final.
Right.
And I was. And it will never get shown. But when I tell you, oh my God, it was the reveal of reveals. It was so good. It's so frustrating, right? That I didn't get to do it. But, hey, listen, I've had some great moments. So listen, enough. I've had some great times. So anyway, so Simon was sitting there. We ended up talking for about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes about BGT, about my journey, about life. He's got a son called Eric, about being dads. We're just chatting, and it was lovely. It was so lovely. And then we're getting towards the end of the conversation, and I said, "Look, Simon, can I ask you a question? And you have to be honest." And he went, "Go for it." He goes, "I promise you, Marc, I'll be absolutely honest with you." And I went, "Okay, did you know?" "I won't say anything. Did you know?" And he looked at me and he went, "Marc," he goes, "I'll tell you this." He goes, "I will tell you the absolute honest," right? And I went, "Go." And he went, Charlie is one of the big producers on Britain's Got Talent. Okay. He's like Simon's right-hand guy.
Okay.
He said, "I turned around to Charlie and I said to Charlie, this X character, do you know anything?" And Charlie went, "No," because Charlie didn't at the time. Charlie didn't know.
Okay.
And Charlie went, like, "Simon, I really do think we need to just leave this." And then Simon is, for all the people that think that Simon doesn't like magic, Simon is the one judge that doesn't want to know how anything works. Don't know. He's kind of the fingers in ears. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. He doesn't want it ruined. And Charlie turned around to Simon and just said, "Look, Simon, I've got a couple of ideas. I'm not sure, but I think if I know what X is going to be doing, and I know what they might be doing in the final, there might be some kind of mask off thing. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we need to let's just see what happens." And Simon turned around and went, "I think you're right. I don't want to know."
Cool.
And so that moment, when you see the final, when Simon stands up, and Simon said to me, when we were talking, he said, "Watch the final again when you take the mask off, and then Ant and Dex say, 'Simon, like, give us your feedback.'" And he said, "When have you ever known me to not be able to have words?" And he goes, "Watch it and you'll see." I kind of go, I had no idea. I had no idea that was you. And Simon goes, "I know TV. I know how seconds on television are really important." And he goes, "In that moment," he goes, I had no words. He goes, "I'm just in my head. I'm calculating everything. This is Marc from last year. He's X. What the hell is going on?" So that was really, an amazing moment for me, because I thought, wow, he didn't know. And that was clarification for me. He didn't know.
Wow.
And he had no reason to lie to me at that point, because it was over. Now everybody knew. He could have just said, yeah, I knew, but like, don't tell anybody. But it was truly satisfying to know that I managed to get all the way through to the final with only Russ knowing, and no one else knowing. It was amazing. It was a journey. It was, out of everything I've done and probably will ever do in my career, X is my greatest achievement in terms of originality. I think it's safe to say that there are no other magicians. I think X kind of, as a mentalist, there are lots of mentalists, but as X, with this worldly, empathic, non-judgmental magician who has a message of positivity and hope and hopefully light and goodness, I don't think that's ever been done before. So for me, X is my greatest achievement.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, Neil Henry has been watching, and he's had a nice comment I wanted to drop in. He said the moment when you took off the mask and revealed it was one of his favorite moments in TV magic, period. So, yeah, I think a lot of us felt that way.
Okay, so there's another gentleman called Phil Smith, who is a very creative mind reader, and he works a lot with DMC, Drummond Money Coots, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Phil has created the decks that I think Murphy's have collaborated with DMC and put these things out, and Phil sent me this message just saying he had no idea that it was me. And he said it was the weirdest moment. He goes, when the mask came off, he felt so emotional, and he was standing in his living room. He didn't realize how he was, and he was just standing there applauding. And he said, I mean, God, and I don't say this, I mean, I'm truly humbled by these comments. Neil Henry is a friend of mine for so long. I mean, for those of you that don't know Neil Henry, go on Instagram. And I think he's on TikTok as well. His videos are hilarious. I mean, when I tell you, I've cried hard watching Neil Henry.
He's great.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Neil is an old friend of mine from years back, and is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He does a lot of work with Craig Filicetti, Pro Mystic, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so Phil sent me this message just saying that he said for him it was the greatest, the culmination of both appearances on BGT, culminating in that moment. He said it was a masterpiece, and he said it was, very kindly, he believes it's one of the greatest moments of magic that he thinks he will ever see. He can't see how that reveal, that moment the mask came off, and the story of everything coming together, this connection. And that makes me immensely proud. I mean, like, and I say that like truly hand on heart, humbled by, I'm humbled by it, and I think that's my masterpiece. I mean, like, if that's it for me, if that's the biggest thing that I will ever do, and arguably I think it might ever be, that might have been my moment. It might be the Macaulay Culkin Home Alone moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's taken me, I'm 48, I'm 49 in September. It's taken me 48 years to get here. This young kid who had no aspirations to be a professional magician has created a moment that some people deem as being one of the greatest moments of magic or reality competition, Got Talent magic moments on television. Massively humbled. I'll take it. If that's my moment, I will absolutely take it. And I'm grateful that I had that moment. Truly grateful.
I don't know if you can see this, but because we're full of positivity right now, Sam Dunn, I've got it on the screen, says, how's it going, Mark? At the time, I was going through quite a rough patch in my life, and you encouraged me to keep performing, and for that, I'm extremely thankful and grateful. Lots of love, man. So Sam Dunn.
Sam, listen, I think I always say this, and Sam, thank you for that comment. That's truly, and I'm glad Yeah, again, like seriously, man, you have no idea how much a comment like that will touches me because for me, it was about talking about my story. And only after you realize when you start to get these messages back, and some, I mean, when I tell you like heartbreaking stories, you go, wow, I've realized that what I thought I was doing, I was kind of almost therapy, like this
Yeah.
is hard, like offloading, has become something that I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't plan it, and that's one of the another reason. Sorry, going about X as well is the reason why I wanted to come back. And I say to you about coming back with no story,
Yeah.
no background story, or anything like that, is because there is this I think sort of slightly negative view that you got to have the story, the backstory,
Oh, yeah,
the,
sure.
the sob story or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of magicians that kind of, I won't use the word attack. They were very open in their dislike for me bringing an emotive story to the magic performance. They saw it as a way of shoehorning and furthering my magical career. And look, my response to that 20 years ago would have been, I want to find them and I will ask them to talk to me and tell me that to my face.
Yeah.
My response to that now, as the human being that I've become, would be, okay, I'm sorry for you that you see that, you've seen it in that light. I can't do anything about that. I know my reasons for telling my story in that way and using what I do as a platform to talk about that. It's not about furthering my career. It really wasn't. It really, really wasn't. It was about being a dad and being a husband and going, this is real magic. Forget the distractions of life. Just take a look to your left, to your right, and see, the magic that's in our worlds that we don't even see. There's a great line by Roald Dahl, and it says, "Those that don't believe in magic will never find it," and that is so true.
Yeah.
And that's where my kind of thing of like, whether magic exists or not is determined by what you define magic as. If you define magic as levitations and disappearing and this and the other, magic's not real.
Yeah.
If you define it as a feeling of absolute enlightenment, happiness inwards and outwards, believe magic is there. So Sam, I'm honestly truly humbled that I in some way managed to kind of just change the gears in your life slightly to put you on a positive path. And and that's what we should all do. You don't need to be on TV to do this. You can change someone's a smile to another human being in everyday life is a nice thing, a gesture. There's a film you should watch, Pay It Forward. Great film. Just pay it forward. Pay it forward. Just a moment of kindness.
True that.
Just pay it forward, And that's, if I can do that, like I'll give you an example. Like now, I've had communication with some of the acts that are on Britain's Got Talent this year. Okay. So one of them is a magician. One of them is a comedy act. And another one of them is a singer. And there's nothing for me to do this. There's nothing in it for me. I've done this journey twice. Once as myself, once as X. I know the journey quite well. I know the pitfalls. I know that you can get trolled online, the negativity that can come with that. There can be people that come at you in a negative way. And the people that I've had communication with, I will happily help them, in any way, any bit of guidance I can give them to further what they're doing in the most positive way possible. I'll do it. I'll pay it forward. I've had my journey. I've had my time. It's been amazing. It's been life changing. I'm speaking to you about it. This doesn't happen without those moments.
Yeah.
So I will absolutely 100% do that. Sorry, going back to, that's why X existed as well,
Right.
because I wanted to prove that I could go on Britain's Got Talent and just use an intriguing persona and couple of routines. Not the final. Obviously, the mask came off in the final, so you could say that there's me in it. So I've kind of used that. That's part of the, whatever. But in the audition and the semi-final, where I did the Instagram trick, and the touching and the electric shock thing and everything else, those, no one knew who X was at that point. Yet I won my semi-final to go through to the final. People picked up the phone and they texted in their votes, not because of my story, because I didn't have one as X. They did it based upon what I was doing. So I wanted to prove, but there is nothing wrong with having a story. And that's something that, like, again, going back to someone like Eric Clapton has a song that he wrote called Tears in Heaven. And this song is about his son who died tragically. I mean, a toddler fell out of a window in New York and died. And he wrote this song called Tears in Heaven. Stop what you're doing, YouTube, Tears in Heaven. Listen to the words and you will cry. It's beautiful. Now, this is Eric Clapton writing about something that is deeply emotive. I mean, it couldn't be more emotive than the loss of a child. But as a singer and a songwriter, he's allowed to do that. And he is absolutely allowed to do that. As someone who maybe writes a play or produces a film or directs a film, you're allowed to do that. So why should that not be the case for magic? Why can magic not be emotive? Why can't we refer on life, to be part of what magic is? If anything, magic in some ways is the one form of entertainment that has become a bit static. It's got a bit stuck. Yeah. If you look at comedians now and look at comedians 20 years ago, comedy evolves and has changed. People like Jerry Seinfeld, Kevin Hart, like Richard Pryor back in the day. I love stand-up comedy. And sorry, that's a really good thing as well. Sometimes in life, we do things in life. We always do things in life that we don't want to do. And I remember listening to Tony Robbins, who this kind of motivational guru. Most people know who Tony Robbins is.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, if there's anything in life that you don't like doing, now for me, it's paperwork and accounts and stuff. I hate it. It's the Achilles heel of being a self-employed showbiz guy is like, accounts and keeping tabs on your receipts. I hate it. Tony Robbins says, if ever there's anything in life that you don't like doing, combine it with something that you do. He hated jogging, running. He hated it. It just wasn't him. He couldn't find. But someone said, combine it with what you love. He loves music. So he said, right, okay. So what I'm going to do is every time I go for a run, I'm going to treat myself to a new album that I have to listen to. An album that someone has recommended to me. So that 40-minute jog now becomes more about him listening to the music than him going for a run. The run is a side thing. And the same thing applies to me. I love stand-up comedy. I love to laugh. I love life and all of its weirdness and quirkiness and the things that just make it funny. So whenever I did my accounts, I would say to myself, right, okay, you're going to do your accounts. You don't like that, but you're going to combine it with listening to some of your favorites, stand-up comedy, And now we are spoiled for choice with stand-up comedy, with Netflix and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one of the things I would say. Anything you don't like doing in life, combine it with something you do like.
Smart.
But getting back to my point, comedy has evolved and changed. Mm-hmm. Films have evolved and changed. You watch a film from 40 years ago to watching a film now, they change. Yeah. The styles change, editing changes, music evolves and changes. The evolution of hip hop and R&B and things like that. It changes and it grows. And in some way, magic has been one of those forms of entertainment that maybe has gotten a bit stuck. It seems to pause a little bit. But then people like Derren Brown and David Blaine, do modernize it. And I think David Blaine's very first special is one of the most significant specials about close-up magic. Not that it was technically the greatest close-up magic. If you want to watch amazing close-up magic, watch Ricky Jay and his 52 assistants. You know, an hour and 15-minute performance of Ricky Jay doing some of the most unbelievable, but great stories and everything. And I watched that show live. He was at the Old Vic in London, and a friend of mine got me tickets to see it. Wow. And I sat down and watched Ricky Jay live do this performance. That's cool. And I remember watching it and thinking to myself, you know what, if you took away all the magic, like get rid of all the tricks, it would have still been such a fascinating show to listen to Ricky Jay talk. And that's the thing it's going back to the point about not always relying on the trick. When you look at my performance on Britain's Got Talent, fundamentally, there were 4 segments to that trick. Choose a crayon, choose a cuddly toy, mix up a Rubik's Cube, choose a word from a book. That's all it was. And you know and I know as magicians, with the techniques that we know, there are lots of different ways of achieving those 4 things. Yeah. But it's about what they meant. The bigger picture is these are all based, and they were genuinely, for people that don't know, Isabella wrote that routine, even though she had no idea that she wrote the routine. She did do that with the crayon. That was the puppet penguin from the audition was the first toy that we were allowed to put in an incubator.
Cool.
She was 3 months premature, you know, born of a cesarean section because of Tessa's cancer. So I remember the nurse said, you can put a toy in there if you like. And we put the puppet penguin in our incubator. So that's why. And she sleeps with it now. If I took the camera now, grabbed it off the thing and went into the house, you know, and went into Isabella's room, you'd see the puppet penguin right by the side of it. It's a favorite thing. So that's why it became part of it. Equally, the Rubik's Cube, I was learning the Rubik's Cube. Isabella would grab my Rubik's Cube. It's a bright colored thing. It would end up on the floor in pieces and I'd have to put this thing back together again. And at the time of when Tessa was going through all of her cancer treatments, she was reading the Harry Potter books, and that's where the Harry Potter book came around, and the word hat was like, oh yeah, okay, brilliant, this can work. So the tricks in themselves are tricks, but it's what it means when you bring it as a collective together, and that's where I think that, you know, someone like Eric Clapton can write a song called Tears in Heaven about his son passing away. And absolutely, I can create a piece of magic that is based upon my wife's struggle with cancer and the birth of my daughter that changes my life and changes my perception of what is real magic. It's absolutely imperative that I tell you that story in that routine. It's not a shoehorned element. It's why it exists. So for people that judge it in a negative sense, respectfully, it's your short-sightedness or the limits that you put on magic that do not allow you to create those moments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's also worth noting that, and I think you would agree, that there are some people that do exploit it. And definitely, I'm not saying you, obviously, but there are people that will exploit and exaggerate is where I was going more with that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There are some people, and I think that they become transparent. I think sometimes you can watch a show, and you got to remember as well, something like the Got Talent shows, America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, they are TV shows first, competition second. Okay, so you know, if there are 2 comedians, they're both great, really really funny, but one's got a good story, then that can help them get through because it's a narrative. And that's what we need to remember. You know, it is a TV show. You know, they have to get the viewing figures in. And it's funny because people all the time, they sort of go, oh, God, surely these shows they've run the course. Well, Britain's Got Talent is one of ITV's, which is like your NBC or ABC channels. ITV is one of the biggest TV shows that consistently brings in viewers. So it still works, you know. I think the moment it doesn't work, you won't see it anymore. But it's you know, we're like season 15 is season 14 now.
It's crazy.
Season 15 is, but it does work. And I also think as well, from a point of view for the acts that do well, like, would Shin Lim have a Las Vegas show? I know, obviously, things are the way that they are, but would Shin Lim have a Las Vegas show if it weren't for AGT? And in that respect, I applaud it. Would Terry Fator be massively successful, at the Mirage, doing what he does? And Shin Lim, Terry Fator, the people that win these shows invariably are massively talented. I mean, Shin's a fantastic. When you think of the technique that he uses a lot in his act, he's very much a pioneer for using that particular technique within what he does. And Terry Fator, I mean, undeniably,
I don't want to forget Matt Franco too. I have lots of love for Matt Franco. He was the first magician to win, and he has a show here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. And thank you for saying that. Matt Franco as well. Yeah. Someone like Matt Franco. What do you get when you watch Matt Franco? You get a guy that you like.
Yes.
He's so non-magic. He's so kind of just this nice guy doing magic. And that's such a lovely thing. Remember to be the person as well as the magician. And Matt Franco does that easily.
He just celebrated 5 years of his show on the Strip. He just celebrated that yesterday. 5 years of his show open there. All thanks to.
Is that still at the Link?
Yep, it's at the Link. Yeah, it's in his own theater. Yeah. They renamed it, and it's his place. Yeah.
Congrats to the man. So listen, I just got like a sound in my earphones, like
is your battery?
They might be running out of battery.
Yeah.
So I can switch over if we need to, whatever you want.
It's okay, man.
I can plug some in.
Yeah, it's okay. We can. I know it's late over there too. It's like going on close to midnight for you. So I'll let you.
Don't worry about that. Honestly, when I say this to you, I said it to you at the very beginning before we went live. It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. Listen, I can sleep later. What's the time now? It's 11:30. This is like, whatever. I just get going at 11:30. So if you've got any questions you want to ask me, because I know I do talk a lot, but it's been a journey. And the most important thing is the moments that I get to speak to people in these environments, in these moments, I just want to speak to people, I just, So I'm happy to communicate in whatever you want to.
Okay.
If you've got questions for me about magic or anything,
I'll take a look through the questions because we haven't done too many of those. And then while I'm doing that, I also want to give you. There's been quite a few people that have said some nice things that I think would be worth mentioning too, and then we can start to wrap up.
Cool.
Daniel Ricks has been watching. Says, "I can't believe I haven't paid for this." You've shared a lot of great insight. Murphy's Luke and Mark. This has been a most excellent live. This has made my day. There's another.
Thank you.
Zach's Magic over in Israel says, "Hi Mark, it's Guy from Israel, and I'm a huge fan. I carry your gallery deck everywhere." So he's a fan of your gallery.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Gallery 2 coming out. Well, actually, I'm still. If you looked at my computer over to this side, I'm still fine tuning some of the updates on the Gallery 2. So cool. But thank you.
Had some love out there from Matt Johnson. Matt's also a fellow BGT alum, so he's out there giving you some love.
Matt's my brother from BGT 2018. And when I tell you, I saw some of the backstage stuff that Matt's a fantastic escapologist.
Oh, yeah.
Looks after himself. He's buff with the tattoos and stuff. Check out his channel. He's got a channel on YouTube, which is Beers and Watches, where he drinks beer and reviews beers and reviews watches as well. And he gives a watch away almost every week. So check his channel out. He's a lovely guy. I love Matt.
Yeah.
Love to you, Matt. Love to you.
He's a sweetheart. Also, David Parr's out there. David Parr's.
Wow. Okay, that's a name. That's a name going way back. I had some beers with David Parr when he was over in England many years ago. I believe he's a good friend of Eugene Berger, the late great Eugene Berger.
Oh yeah.
David Parr's a great guy. David, lots of love to you. I remember you showing me the effect. I don't know if you remember this, with blank bicycle cards, and you had gravestones on there. So I remember the trick. I remember it was a good trick.
He also said this when you were talking about people can say what they want to say, and you used to act one way, now you act, or you reacted a different way before, and now you reacted different. David says, that's all feel good stuff, Mark, but I see that you keep the skulls of your enemies on the shelf behind you. And it's, he's kind of making a joke there. There's a little skull up there over your right shoulder. So.
Yeah, that's actually, the last person to criticize me on Twitter. So, careful.
A lot more love. Also, Titanus, my good friend and yours, has been watching and says big hugs to you as well. So
the Greek giant, the Greek gentle giant.
Yep.
Titanus is one of my best friends in the world. I don't see him enough as I should.
I feel the same.
But whenever I get the chance to meet him, the beauty of my friendship with Titanus is I could not see him for a year. We walk into a room, have a couple of whiskeys, have some Greek food. It's all good. We're back where we left off. So he's good.
My friend Jonathan on Facebook also. I'm going to try to bring this on the screen, but it's kind of big, so it may cover up my face. But bam, there it is. I wanted to say I'll never forget the kindness you showed to a random stranger, me, speaking of him, tweeting at you as I waited for your flight home after giving a lecture at Penguin some years ago. To see you perform both as yourself and then as X years later reinforced the lesson of kindness I learned from that first interaction. Thanks for that, and congrats on all the deserved accomplishments. So he's all about the kindness too. So
thank you, Jonathan. That's really, really kind of you, my friend. Yeah. Really, really kind of you. Thank you.
Also, our friend over in the UK as well, Marc Wybrow. Oops, he's right there. Mark had a few hard months working. Watching you tonight made me feel so much better and glad to listen to you. He's in the healthcare. Mark works in the healthcare industry there, and he hasn't had a day off in months. And so I think he finally has a few days off here. So he's kind of trying to focus on the good. So.
Yeah, listen, look, Mark, if there's anything, like you guys on the front line are truly, truly inspirational. Like, I think a lot of people during this pandemic, we've been able to just shut ourselves away and kind of hide away and watch Netflix and applaud. We do this thing in the UK. I don't know if this happens in the US, but every Thursday night we would applaud the NHS, which is our health service. And that's all that we could kind of do, really. But, anyone in the healthcare service and lots of people in the front line, delivery people that work in shops, honestly, how, is unbelievable what you guys have done. And that's that mindset that people have that work in those industries, that is another form of magic. I talk about magic all the time, like real magic, but to me, it's that selflessness is truly unbelievable. So keep doing what you're doing, and if ever you need to reach out. I'm around. You can get hold of me.
Absolutely. Paul Cunningham also had some love for you. I don't know if I said this one or not, but he says great thinker, great performer, and inspirational moments. Huge fan. So another fan,
Thank
Paul
you.
Cunningham, over on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Paul.
Looking through, there were also some questions along the way I wanted to make sure I didn't miss. Where was the one? Talking about giving meaning to your magic. A lot of people are inspired, is what I'm seeing as I'm looking through the comments. A lot of it is thanking you for the inspiration, which is really cool. Your inspiration. Oh yeah, and Chloe's been watching this quite a bit too. She says, "Real magic exists." This is a quote, by the way. I wonder where it came from.
Okay.
Quote: "Real magic exists. It always has, and it always will, in memories and moments, in those we love and within you." This is the quote that is on Mark's signed photo that he sent to me. So Chloe Chadwick's out there, and she wrote that.
Oh,
so.
Chloe's lovely. She's a lovely, lovely woman. She's really sweet. She's been so supportive, and that's what I mean. Like, people just think that they sometimes you respond to a message somewhere, and people are like blown away that you're replying to a message. And you know what? If I could, I would reply to all of them if I could. But it's just that sometimes you miss them and stuff like that. But Chloe, I've managed to connect with Chloe a couple of times, and Chloe's a really, really lovely woman, really full of positivity and light, and that's what we need. That's what we all need.
I have a question for you. As I'm looking through these two, I was wondering this earlier, and I saw someone ask it, and I'm trying to find that. When you perform after we're able to get back to live performing the way that it used to be. Because I hate to say when things get back to normal, because things will never be the way they were before. They're always going to be a little different, I feel. When you will perform now, will there be an element of X in your shows? Would you be booked just as X? Would you be booked?
Yeah.
How would
yeah,
that work
okay.
now with you?
Okay, so it's a really interesting dynamic because, yeah, I mean, I've been to the Far East. Well, I was in Indonesia as X and as Marc Spelmann. I was in China twice before the pandemic broke. So I was out there in September and November. We've been to Germany. I performed in Athens, all over the place. And I would say that maybe about 60% of my performances have been as X, funny enough. And the other 40% as Marc Spelmann. I think X has really been a massive thing for me. And how does it work? I think you've got to remember two things. First of all, if you never saw the final of Britain's Got Talent and you only saw the audition or the semi-final, you still don't know who X is. You know, you don't have a clue who X is, right? If you have seen them, which some people have, I did a performance up in Birmingham in the UK. That was in early January. Early January, I did this performance in Birmingham, and it was a massive gala dinner. There must have been about 800 people there. Huge venue. I walked out as X, and the roar as I walked out as X was huge. It was just immense.
Nice.
And at the very end of my performance, I took the mask off and I said, thank you all for watching, and thank you all for being here tonight. Your applause and your attention has been gratefully received. And I said a couple of other sort of closing comments about the company and what they were doing. But when I took the mask off, it was like the audience, even though they know X is Marc Spelmann, I think there's always this thing now, which is really interesting dynamic, where they're sort of sitting there watching and going, is that? Yeah, but is it him? Because it could be anyone under that mask, right? With the voiceover and stuff. So is that really him? So at the end, I take the mask off, and the roar in the audience went, "Wait!" You know, it's like,
cool.
Oh God, it really is Marc Spelmann. That is the real X that we're watching. Cool. And that happened in Dubai. I was in Dubai again at the beginning of the year as well, end of January, and I was performing as X. And at the end of this performance in Dubai, I took the mask off, and you saw loads of people in the audience just went, "Oh my God, it's him!" And then I came off stage. I said to Colin, Colin Klaus, my guy who's been with me all the way through the X journey, posed as my manager and everything else during the journey of X, spoke for me and did all of my prep and everything. So no one could communicate with the X. They just couldn't. And Colin just said to me when I got off stage, I went, "Did you hear that reaction when I took the mask off and said thank you for watching?" He went, "Yeah, but," he goes, "supposing they haven't seen the final." I was like, "Oh my God." So there are still people in this world that don't know who X is underneath the mask. Now, so I could take the mask off and some people will go, "Oh, I have no idea who that is." But people that follow the Got Talent shows, obviously my first audition as me, Isabella and Tessa and all that, just went around the world. I mean, it was mega, absolutely mega. And it's really funny because in Germany now, I mean, we're talking 2 years down the line now, right, for that first audition. And in Germany, I got this influx of followers from Germany and these messages and these people saying, "Oh, they've just done a Got Talent special on German television," which I think is called like something like Das Super Talent, which is the German thing. And they showed my audition, and it was like this, like Got Talent from around the world.
Wow.
And they showed my audition, and then people go, "Oh my God!" So I get all these messages coming through. So it's like, even though it's 2 years down the line, there are some people that are watching it for the first time. So it's amazing. So yeah, it's truly humbling.
Real quick question. I think his name is Guy, but he goes by Zach's Magic Israel. Can you breathe through the mask? What's it like?
Yes, I can. Yeah, no, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
You can breathe. Now, the mask behind me here. So, this is the original X mask.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the mask. I've got a couple of these masks, but this is the one that I wore in the audition. I wore it in all of the shows and on AGT Champions as well. This is the mask that I wore the whole way through.
Wow.
The other side of this mask looks like this.
Wow.
So it is beaten up. It is, and you can see through the eyes there. If I kind of, hang on a minute, let me angle that. What's the best way? There you go. That's it.
Dude.
So you can see through the eyes and stuff like that. But it's actually got material that kind of blacks out the mouth and the nostrils. Yeah. And that is the X mask. It's kind of you've got like a marking on it as well. But yeah, so that's the original mask, and each mask takes me probably about maybe 6 hours to make, thereabouts.
Wow.
Not that long, but from start to finish, because it has a number of coats of paint. I carve a pattern in the face of X as well, and just putting all the components together. So yeah, it's that's X. He's in the right place. Sorry, just make sure he's in view. Otherwise, he gets annoyed if he's not on camera. But yeah, so you can breathe through it. If ever there was I desperately want to do this, because now in the UK it's become compulsory to wear masks when you go shopping, because obviously the crazy.
Gosh.
So it's compulsory. So in my head I'm thinking, if ever there was a time that X needs to go shopping for the groceries, it's now, right? And that's going to be a great Instagram post, right? X buying his cornflakes. I'm not going to be frowned upon. People are going, wow, that guy's really going the extra mile to protect everyone, with the mask. So, yeah. So I can breathe in it.
I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. Yeah, we have to wear masks here as well in the States. It's
okay.
Wow.
I need to get these mass produced, right, so that everyone can wear this.
It would be,
maybe a collaborate Murphy's Magic, Spelmann, X masks.
It would be like right? What was the movie? Was it V, where they were all wearing
V for Vendetta.
It would end up being like that, absolutely. But with the X. So instead of V, it's now it's
there
X.
You go. Exactly.
Oh man, that's funny. Wow. Yeah, I forgot we all got to wear those damn things now. Yeah. More love for you. People are definitely loving this and appreciating it. And we are about to hit, the 2 hour mark, which actually is a little bit more because we had the hiccups earlier. So one last question, and then I'll let you go, because I've seen this one a few times. One of them, before I get to that one, was after the pandemic is over and you're back out and performing again, will you continue the podcast that you've been doing with Pete? Are you guys going to continue that, or do you not really know right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The podcast that me and Peter do is called Wizards, Whiskey and Waffle, and the idea is that me and Peter we try to make. Peter lives, a good sort of like hour and a half, 2 hour drive away from where I am, and we try to sort of hook up. He's so busy. I've been busy with X. He's been busy with Alakazam and all the things that they do. So the best that we can communicate is literally a phone call here and there, or a FaceTime call. And so really and truly, Wizards, Whiskey and Waffle is us just chatting about nonsense that we would talk about. So yeah, I believe it will, whether or not it's going to be as routined like every week as it is, or whether it be sort of like sporadic moments. You might get 2 in a week, or maybe you won't get a one for a month. I have no idea, but okay. I love talking to Peter, and I love sharing that.
Cool.
Listen, also as well, Luke, if there's any sort of magic related questions you want to fire at me, I don't know what you ask your other listeners, but okay. If you want to, we can do some of that for the magic people.
Sure.
It's entirely up to you.
Is there any plans, or not plans, but what was it about Gallery 2? Someone was that, yes, well, someone said what will be on Gallery 2. Are you able to shed any light on what's going to be part of that?
Absolutely, yeah. So gallery, the gallery, for those that don't know, it's a photographic deck of playing cards that you can use in your performances, and it becomes this. Anything you could do with a deck of playing cards, you can now kind of change and adapt slightly using these photographic cards. It becomes a nice change from. I think one of the things that I say on the trailer for the gallery is, if someone is thinking of the Two of Hearts as a playing card, it's the Two of Hearts. If you're thinking of a photograph, as it can be in the gallery, now it becomes something that is so much more. If it's a picture of the Eiffel Tower or even a pizza, there's more to it. You know, sounds and tastes and sensations that you can start describing. So that was the origins of the original gallery. It's something that I've been doing for a long time. I'm a relatively skilled card magician, believe it or not. But because I went down the mentalism route, I started using photographs instead of playing cards to kind of keep what I was doing as I don't want people to necessarily think I'm doing card tricks as such. Mm-hmm. So that's why the gallery came about. The gallery 2 is going to have its a slight change on some of the imagery. There's a lot more hidden elements to gallery 2. And there's also a system in place with the gallery 2 that enables you to have, it's got all the same things that you get in gallery 1, but also with gallery 2, we're going to possibly change the card stock as well and go for a different card stock to make them a bit easier to handle, maybe, if that's so so there's some of the changes. One of the changes, cool. The biggest change for the gallery, though, is a system whereby every image is linked in a way that will be very beneficial for the user.
Cool. Very cool. I'll ask you a question because you mentioned it to me earlier. When it comes to the trend now, and I'm really curious about your answer on this one because of how much positivity you bring with you. So I'm curious your angle on this.
Okay.
When it comes to exposure of magic, and it is something that I've talked about with other people, and I'm sure you've thought about this, long before the question ever popped up here, but when you see people online using, and I use the word using very strongly because I feel like they're taking secrets, other people's work, and they're using it in different ways for selfish gains. What are your thoughts on all that? Because it exists, and it exists in an even bigger way than it ever has, I feel like, right now.
Okay, so I think that I completely disagree with exposure.
Yeah.
Completely disagree with exposure. I've got a viewpoint. I'm really conscious of my headphones, Luke. So I'm just going to quickly, if that's all right. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly grab.
Yeah, man. We'll at least go to the top of the hour. I'll at least get you through to Friday. How about that?
Oh yeah. No worries. No. Listen, let me just let me take these out.
Yeah, you're good.
Right. So can you still hear me?
Yeah, it's a little different, but we can still hear you. Yes.
Do you want? I can plug this in and then we can carry on if you want, or do you want me? Are you all right like this, or?
You can plug them in. Let's try that. Let's just see how that sounds too. Yeah.
Okay. So bear with me. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'll just pop to me for 1 second. I did want to say one thing while Marc is plugging in his headphones. That should be jumping to me. Is I would have been showing some of Marc's footage from Britain's Got Talent and even America's Got Talent, the Champions. The problem is the copyright strikes on that stuff. I didn't want our feed to get pulled down. So I've showed you a few clips along the way of him in action, but unfortunately I cannot stream those clips even without the audio here on Facebook or on YouTube where you guys are watching. So I know a lot of the things we've been talking about, you're probably like, Luke, why aren't we seeing that? I'm conscious of it, and that's why, because we've gotten pulled down in the past, and so have other people, so I'm just trying to be conscious of that.
I can't actually find the right connection.
Not a problem, man.
So if you're all right with me just doing it like this.
It's good.
Yeah, okay, I'll speak up so that people can hear. Cool. So I disagree with exposure for a number of different reasons. Reason number one is I think I think you have to I think there are varying degrees of exposure as well. So as an example,
really short story. Years ago, I used to be a demonstrator at Davenport's Magic Shop in London. So I'm talking like the sort of mid to late 90s. I was a demonstrator, right?
Okay.
And I remember getting this phone call from one of the national newspapers in the UK called the Daily Express. So it's a big newspaper, like your New York Times or something like that. That sort of big major newspaper. And they said, we're phoning up because we just wanted to find out if there's anybody that can assist us. We're doing this weekly article about magic within a magazine called Puzzled. And within this magazine, we want to teach a magic trick every week. Now, we've done some research, we've got some books, but we want to find out if someone can just make head nor tail of it. We're really struggling with this article. So I said to them, can I ask what sort of reference? They said, we've got loads of stuff from the shop from you. So we've got things like Expert Card Technique, Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic, just other illusion books. They read this stuff out, Bobo's Modern Coin Magic, and magicians who understand will hear me say these titles and go, oh my God, right, okay. So in my head, I thought to myself, wow, okay. And I said, listen, I'm an illustrator. I illustrate, I also do magic. Can I? And they said, oh my God, could you come in? So I went, yeah, no problem. Of course I can. So I ended up having an interview with the Express newspaper back in like 1998. And they said, look, we can't make head nor tail of this stuff. Mm-hmm. They brought these books. I said, can I see your reference material? Brought these books out. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, you cannot put any of this stuff into a newspaper. You cannot.
Right.
And I said, look, no one's going to do any of this stuff. You put in a routine from, the Complete Walton, some card, but no one's going to do it, And things like, if I say words like double lift or, the pass and stuff, they had all this stuff. And I was going, no way, you're kidding me, right? So I said, look, I will do this article. I'll assist you with this article. I'll illustrate it for you, but I get 100% control. And they said, okay, great. So I ended up taking on this article, and I taught things in this article. So this is interesting about exposure, because some people could say, he exposed magic. Yeah. But I'll give you one of the examples of the magic trick that I exposed. When you've got three matchboxes on a table, mm-hmm. and you pick it up and you shake it, say, like, this one's got the matches in it.
Oh, yeah.
And you do like a Monty with the matchboxes, but really and truly you've got one in your sleeve that's got the matches in it, and none of them have matches in it, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the extent of I really went, right, we're going to do silly betches and kind of like, that kind of stuff. So I believe mild exposure that is fun, like a guy called Paul Zenon, a very sort of popular magician in the UK, has got a book that is like 100 ways to win a tenner, like £10, $10. Mm-hmm. And they're like betches and stuff like that. And I think that kind of exposure or quirky magic trick thing, I think as long as it's not within the realms of a professional magician, then there's room to discuss. I think the minute it becomes something that is like Timothy Wake's Misled, you don't go there. Like, so don't go there, because that's genius, right? Yeah. If it's like Harbin's Zigzag Lady, you don't go there, because my philosophy is this: I believe it takes a genius, regardless of how complicated or how simple a magic trick is. It takes someone with ingenuity, creativity, and in some cases absolute genius to create something. Any fool with a hammer can knock something down, right? So you can look at Harbin's, I refer to it this way: the invention of the wheel. We look at the wheel and go, well, it's a wheel. It's round, it rolls. What's wrong with you? But the person that went, no, this thing rolls. Genius. Oh my God, like genius, And that's where I stand. So, I believe that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And if you create something and it is truly original to you and you want to expose it, go for your life. It's up to you, right? If you didn't create it, if you've got nothing to add to you can't expose it. And I think people then have this whole thing about, oh, but hang on a minute, you can expose magic when someone's paying for it. But yes, for a reason. If I turn around to someone at a gig and someone goes to me, oh my God, how did you just do that? If I turn around and go, do you really want to know? And they go, yeah. I want to question how much they want to know. So if I go, well, look, I'll show you, and they go, great, and they watch that expose, if you like. But if I say to them, I'll tell you for £50, most people, almost 99.9% of people, will go, well, no, I just kind of went, like, wow, how'd you do that? But, no, I don't. They're not that fussed to know. So what it is, when you ask someone to pay for a secret, it's not a greed thing. It's how committed are you to knowing this secret? So to me, that's what it's about. I remember going to a magic shop, Davenport's magic shop, as a customer when I was a kid, and walking in and kind of just going, like magic shop, London. No internet, no website shops, none of that. But it was just being in a magic shop. And I remember it was almost like a rite of passage. So they'd sort of go, so what sort of magic have you done? And you kind of go, oh, well, I got that book and I got that one. And you could see a change in the person's eyes where they kind of go, okay, all right, listen, this is a really good trick. And I'll show you this and I'll show you this. And I love that because it was an investment. To learn magic in those days, and this is the changing times of the internet, and it's a blessing and a curse. We were talking about technology before, we had a couple of issues, and technology is absolutely a blessing, but it can be a pain as well. And the same thing with how magic has evolved. Yes, it's wonderfully useful that I can, go to Penguin Magic and get something like that. Alakazam, boom, Illusionist, Theory 11, whoever,
Yeah.
And I can grab magic like that. Really useful for me. The flip side of that is that when I was a kid learning magic, I had to either go to a library, and just going to a library, you can't say to me, going on YouTube on a computer and typing in magic trick, there's no investment. There is none. It's like seconds and these secrets are there. And I think that is wrong. Whereas myself as a kid, if I went to a library, which I did do, and sat in the corner grabbing the library books out and kind of, reading, taking the library books from the library, going home and practicing these tricks, there's an investment of my time, patience and study that is going to be the factor of whether or not I am serious about learning magic. The same thing applies to going to a magic shop. Going to a magic shop requires time. Traveling down to London with my pocket money to go and buy a magic trick from Davenport's Magic, that one trick, with some photocopied instructions telling me how to do this trick, and then having to try and work it all out from these 3 illustrations and 2 pages of text. That's investment. I have to commit to that to learn. And my problem is with things like TikTok and exposure, the exposure of a secret is not for teaching magic. It's not for educating and inspiring. It's to get a follow.
Yeah.
And if it's to get a follow or to get a like or to get a view, then to me, listen, that's, someone like Zach King does fantastic, amazing special effects magic. Learn to do that. Do that instead. There are some of the most viral. My YouTube video of my audition for Britain's Got Talent has got 27 million views on Britain's Got Talent. So it shows you there's no exposure. That's a magic trick, you know. Shin Lim has got millions and millions and millions of views by doing what he does. Same with like Jamie Raven over here, Matt Franco. You know, these videos have got millions and millions of views, likes. You know, we've got a good amount of followers, not because we expose magic, not to please like me, I'll teach you a magic trick. You know, it's like me going, hey, follow me, I'll send you £2. It's the same. It's like, just, you know, like, come on.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, Neil Henry, you know, is way more popular on social media than I am. Like, way more popular. Neil Henry passes wind, blows gas, farts, you know, whatever you call it. You know, trumps. That's a word I shouldn't use. Trump. You know, sorry. Sorry for those that like Trump. I do apologize. But Neil Henry does that and does gags and stuff like that. He's got a massive following. Yeah. You don't need to expose it's cheap. And do you know what? I think it's disrespectful. Yeah. So as an example, I remember David Copperfield doing Timothy Wank, and I use this as an example. Timothy Wank's Misled on one of his specials, and I remember sitting there watching him push his pencil through a note, and my brain just going, I need to understand this. And I remember reverse engineering it, watching it back again and again and again. And Timothy Wank hadn't released the effect. It wasn't available because, you know, David Copperfield buys the rights to it for like 2 years. You can't put it out. You can't, you know, it's like that's his trick for that moment. And I remember I made exactly how it works, and you'll know how it works, out of like beer cans. Right, I got beer, I flattened, made this thing, and I went, oh my god, that's it. Thought I was a genius, and then I thought, wow, I'm the only other guy that can do this effect apart from Timothy Wank and David Copperfield. And then I started working at Davenport's, and Betty Davenport, the owner of Davenport's, went, oh Mark, we've just got these in. And Timothy Wank's Misled. I was like, oh my god, I just spent 3 months building this thing.
It's funny.
But my point is that to think like that, to create that effect is genius. You know, cigarette through coin and stuff like that. You know, it's the engineering, the you know, even like a card, you know, a simple card trick. You know, it's genius. Don't you dare. To me, one of the greatest gimmicks that we have in magic. I'm just going to do a thumbs up to you, Luke. You know, just because you're doing a good job. But one of the greatest gimmicks that can be used in mentalism, magic, you know, in card magic, coin magic, you know, it can be used in every facet of magic. Can be used, right? But it's one of the most exposed, and I hate that. Like. Don't, oh god, if someone said to me, you can take one gimmick with you onto a desert island, one gimmick,
that's it.
How you doing? That's it. Honestly, I swear, that is it. That's what I would take, because there's the amount of things I can do with it.
And
so I sorry, long answer, but hopefully that conveys my. It's disrespectful. Yeah. These people, the shoulders of giants. I say this all the time. These books, and I don't have an extensive I've got a good library. I give a lot of my magic books away to other magicians, a couple of really good friends of mine, because you know they are just so into their coin magic, and so like some real collector's items I give away because I just got to study it, you know, learn it, because Simon was like that with me with the books of illusion and stuff like that in my early days. But you know, I've got these books here, and there's absolute genius in these books. And I'll tell you something, I won't use any of these principles until I've mastered them, right? I won't discredit these giants that are no longer with us. You know, I won't discredit them by using any of the material until I've mastered it, until I can give it the justice and do it the justice it deserves, because it is genius. And to use that for a like, for a follow, to kind of have a quirky moment on TikTok or whatever, I think is disrespectful. You're disrespecting that creator. And if you would come up with something as genius as that, I promise you, you wouldn't, it would kill you to know that it's been disrespected in that way.
That's what I was going to say when you were speaking about the other stuff, is the people doing it are not the people that are creating their own material, because it's not an easy thing to do. Like you said earlier about knocking down a wall, it takes a while to build it. It takes a second to crush it. Same thing with magic. It could take you years. And I've been working on one of my own tricks for like 10 years now, if not more. I just haven't done anything with it yet, you know? But it would only take a matter of minutes, maybe seconds, to expose the concept and the secret. And that's the easy part. That's the cheap part. As Stefan over on YouTube says, exposure is just the cheap and easy way. And I think that's it. It's just a quick and easy way to get some attention that's pretty fleeting. It's not, there's no longevity to any of that.
You know what? One of the most viral magic clips I think of recent times is Justin Flom doing essentially Sam the Bellhop, but to music, and what a great idea! What a brilliant idea! He's taken an absolute classic of magic, Sam the Bellhop, which is brilliant, an absolute classic piece of card magic. He's put his twist on it, and just with a simplistic bit of creativity, but clever, he's been on so many TV programs because of that clip. And that's where you think to yourself, just apply yourself. Just apply yourself. And I know some amazing creators that are not performers. I know some amazing performers that are not creators. So if you're not a creator of magic, then just hone your performance. Don't be cheap. Don't expose it. Don't. Who are you pleasing? It's like,
it's selfish, Mark. That's what it is. They're pleasing themselves by getting something in return, and
But you know what? I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I've got a reasonable following on Instagram. I've got a reasonable following on Instagram as X.
Yeah.
But my only real connection, following numbers really don't mean that much, me and Pete were having a discussion the other day, just saying, you could have 2 million followers, or you could have 5,000 followers. But if you have got 5,000 followers and you're engaged with those 5,000 people, and you've got 2 million followers, but you barely engage with any of them, then it's better to have the 5,000 that you engage with. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to anyone can have loads of numbers and views and all that, but what does it mean? Like, I've got this many views on that video. That's doing really well for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a game, and unfortunately it's a game that people look at and see the activity, and I think the problem is when they see what can happen when you can get viral views, it only inspires people to do that because they want the same thing,
But then just be good at, and the irony is some of these people that are on, I'm on TikTok, so I don't really do much on TikTok, but I'm on TikTok. But when I look at some of the magicians that are on TikTok that are doing exposure, here you go, perfect example, Magic Singh. You had him on last week, right?
Yep.
And Magic Singh has got a great following. He's got. Obviously we're all suffering at the moment, but he's got a career that's really working for him. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and doesn't expose. He does compelling, clever, themed pieces of magic. Nothing that most of us could do it by the trick. But what Magic Singh has got is one. He's got his persona, which is likable. Mm-hmm. And if we all work at it, we can all try and have a persona that's likable, just be nice, and he kind of thinks, right, like his magic themed magic tricks, great. Christmas is coming, let's do some magic themed around magic, around Christmas, clever, really good, but anyone can do that. I personally think on something like TikTok, I think it's not really what you do, it's how often you do it. And there's loads of magic tricks. I mean, Magic Sing's a prime example. You know, look at his channel on TikTok. He's got so many magic tricks on there, but he doesn't expose. He just does lovely, cool pieces of magic that's within the realms of all of us. He's not, like you. Sometimes you watch something like Eric Chen or Shin Lim, and you kind of go, yeah, okay, I'm not sure I could do any of that stuff really, but there is magic that is accessible, and a lot of the things that someone like a Magic Sing will do, a lot of the things that I do are accessible and you can do.
Yeah.
So I just think to myself, it's so lazy to go for the exposure, and I would rather be respected as an artist or an entertainer than an exposer. What do you do? Well, I take what other people have spent years creating and I diminish it and knock it down in seconds so that other people will like me. That's what you're doing. Is that what you really want?
Yeah.
Really? Is that what you want? If you want people to like you, be nice. There are people that are on TikTok. There's this one lady in Australia, and I really want to send her a message. She's like a self-help guru kind of thing. Her posts on TikTok are brilliant. No magic, nothing like that. It's just she just talks about your self-worth, your value, how to get yourself out of negative situations, how to like refocus, failures. And I'm subscribed to her. I follow her on TikTok because I think it's a lovely dose of goodness. You can't get too much of that.
Nope. Heard that. So, to wrap things up here, where do you think things will go after the lockdown is lifted? Do you think that magic, performing art, live performing in any capacity, will be the same, especially for magicians? Now, I know as a mentalist, it's a little different because there's audience interaction, but it's much different than, let's say, a close-up performer or a performer that actually has to directly interact with people for almost every trick that they do.
Okay. So I've done a performance within this pandemic.
Like a live performance or online?
Live. I've done a live performance about, was it 2 weeks ago? No, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
I did a live performance. It was in someone's garden.
Okay.
Luckily, the weather is kind of held out.
Okay.
But it was in someone's garden, and it's actually a bit of a weird story. I was booked to do it in her garden, and we're all going to sort of social distance, and we're going to be outside, which is obviously better. And then it started to rain, and where she had situated me in her garden was really dark, and I said no one could see me, and it's starting to rain. I was covered as a performer, but the people watching wouldn't be. And I sort of said, this is really, I don't know if this is going to work. So then she had a beautiful home, so a large home. So she said, maybe we can put everyone in this dining room. We can open up the patio doors. You can be near the edge. So we're still social distancing. The doors are open. As I was about to start performing, this policeman walks in. And it was a birthday party for her, and she was like 60. So immediately I thought, oh, it's a stripper, right? It's like someone's booked her as a stripper, because that happens in the UK. You get a policeman comes into the party, guys, got to tell you about the noise levels, and then they start taking off their stuff and stripping. So I thought, oh, clearly this is a stripper, right? And then another 3 police officers came in. And they said, no, this is, and I thought, okay, this is really not, these are not strippers, this is really police. And they said, we've been notified by one of your neighbours that there's some sort of party happening here, that you can only have a certain number of people, and you're all congregating in this room, what's going on? So then she says, I've got Marc Spelmann from Britain's Got Talent, he's about to perform, you can't close our party down just yet. And then the police, bless them, turned around and said, oh, okay, was he like a magician? They went, yeah. They said, okay, look, how long is he performing? Half an hour. Okay, you can have it, but it's got to be outside. So I performed in the rain, in the garden, to these group of people who were in the rain with like blankets and stuff, trying to shield themselves from the rain, right?
Wow.
how do I think things will be going forward?
Yeah.
I think there will be certain tricks that we'll kind of have to put on the back burner. As
Yeah.
an example, it's funny because I think that there are lots of tricks when you think about it that you can minimize contact. You know, so you can certainly like, you know, the riffle F.
Yep.
Is going to become really popular again, I believe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that's going to be the using the force of choice will become very much that. But I genuinely believe, I don't know what it's going to be like out of London, but in London, you know, this is a big cosmopolitan, metropolitan, hustling, bustling city. It's a place I love. It's home, right? I truly believe for the vast majority of people, if and when a vaccine comes into play, I actually think people will go back to what they were doing before.
Interesting.
I really do. And I'll tell you why. From my own perspective, if you said to me, Mark, here's a vaccine, you know, this COVID-19 is, it's kind of two strains of a flu, which it kind of is, but it can be very detrimental because of how it's transmitted and, you know, whatever, you know, all the things that come with the complications of this pandemic. But the world has had pandemics before, SARS, MERS, you know, the Spanish flu, and we all ended up going back to normal. We really did. We all kind of just, you know, and you can say like, yeah, but like, have we ever had something like this? What? Not in our lifetimes, but the Spanish flu killed millions and millions of people. The plague, the bubonic plague, killed millions and millions of people. But still, people went back to normal. I think when you look at things like 9/11, you know, like I remember watching 9/11 live unfold in front of my eyes, and just sitting there, just thinking the world is going to be. And I guess obviously our airport security is different.
Oh,
there
yeah.
have been
That's a lot
there
different.
have been wars,
Yeah.
and you know our airport security is definitely different.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally, I mean, we've had some terrible terrorist attacks in London, with like, you know, on London Bridge, like people driving into people and stuff like that. They've had it in France, you know, terrible things that have happened. But we momentarily go into shock, and you know, things change a bit. You know, there are changes. Like if you go down to the bridges in London, you'll see there's these bollards that prevent people from driving vehicles onto the bridges, onto the pavement areas and things like that. But fundamentally, as human beings, we go back to how we were. And I think that once a vaccine is in place, which I do think will happen, it will come. There are some very, very clever people in this world. When, I don't know. Would I take it? Yes, I would. I would. I'd rather risk my chances with a vaccine than risk my chances. I'm 48, you know, so I'm sort of heading towards middle age. I guess I am middle age actually, you know, so, you know, I'd rather risk my chances with something that is known and maybe proven and scientifically tested than something that is just this random thing that's attacking people's, you know, immune systems, breathing, their lungs and everything else. So I do think it would go back to being what it was before. There might be some changes, and as I say, some tricks, I think things like from card from mouth, you know, getting people to, you know, take the card that you've just regurgitated out of your mouth might not happen so much. French kiss by Wayne Houchin, which is a massively popular trick in so many magicians' arsenals. I've never done it. I think it's a great trick. I've not done it because everyone does. But again, that close proximity might be something that doesn't really work for a while. But I do think that we will kind of go back to, it'll be, you know, God, that thing of 2020, what was that all about? A bit weird, wasn't it? You know, that's my hope anyway. I kind of, you know, I think we should all be a bit more careful. I do think we should be careful as human beings, you know, like, it's funny because as you approach middle age, like I am now, you know, I sort of look at what I eat and kind of the foods that I have, and
Yeah.
I've got a little daughter. I'm an older dad, so we kind of become. We realize that immortality is not there really. We're not immortal, which I think we can have in our 20s. It's like, we're gonna go on forever, So so that's my viewpoint. I think performances really, magicians, mentalists, onstage mentalists, and illusionists haven't got to worry about a thing as long as they, their acts technically are quite passive. As long as you've got an audience to watch, you're okay, and as long as you kind of in your bubble with your assistants or whatever. I mean, manipulation acts are if my piece of advice to any person in magic, start doing a manipulation act, because you don't need anyone to take anything, you don't need any assistance, you can be on stage on your own.
There you go.
Or take up stand-up comedy. There you go. That's the one. Become a stand-up comedian, because you can stand on the middle of a stage away from everyone, no interactions whatsoever, and do your thing.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting times. I know, Vegas, no shows, Strip's kind of in a weird spot. It's just a really weird time for all of us. And, as magicians, it's been interesting to see people kind of pivoting to do virtual shows. Have you done any yourself? Have you
I've done a couple of virtual shows, and you kind of you do what you've got to do. You know what I mean? People do need entertainment in this time. Can you imagine? Like, I used to sort of perform at a lot of corporate events back in the day. A few months back, and some of the performances, you'd sort of do these corporate companies, and they'd have 2 days of conferencing with PowerPoint presentations, pie charts, and kind of sort of chats about how well the business has done over the last year for 2 days, and then have that one bit of entertainment. Can you imagine doing all of that on a Zoom now? I mean, God, that must be hard. Okay, guys, welcome to the conference. Everyone zoomed in, and trying to maintain that level of things. So I've done a couple. Listen, I don't think it's anyone's preferred way of performing. Of course, there are some benefits. You kind of like, for me, I've got a studio at the back of my garden, which is called the Area 50 Studio.
Nice.
Where I kind of do a lot of my green screen filming. It's this space. I have an office here. I've got green screen and everything everywhere else.
Nice.
But so obviously, sort of coming to do a 30-minute performance, down in the studio, great. I only have to dress from here down, and that's it. And then I can crack on and do my performance, and then head back. I'm finished, all done. But there is something about a live gig, an interaction with a live audience. You just, for me, you can't beat it. So I will continue to do Zoom performances. I've got some wonderful material that I use. I try and veer away from what other people are doing. I'm observant of what other people are doing. And so I deliberately try and go a slightly different route. There are some tricks that are just so good for Zoom that you have to do them. You kind of do what you got to do.
Awesome.
I do think, as an example, you can do a McDonald's. What was you had a routine? I own it. Sorry, excuse me, it's late. My brain. It was with the Aces on Illusion. I think you put it out through Illusionist. What was the effect? Is it joke? No, you do an effect with Aces. You're doing it with Daniel Madison sitting there.
It's probably my version of Daly's Last Trick, but you do it with 2 2s and 2 aces, and they all end up changing to aces at the end, something like that.
There you are. Yeah, that's it, right? So that a brilliant piece of magic.
Thank you.
But I think something like that absolutely works on Zoom, and I think people are veering too much for this interactivity. So I think you've got to be careful with your Zoom shows, because what I do is in my Zoom performances, which I only do half an hour. I could do less, but maximum I'll do half an hour. That's it, because I think retaining, that level of interest and through a screen is tough. And I think half an hour, leave them wanting more. But in that time, I'll do a lot of interactive stuff that I can do with the people that are zooming in. But equally, I'll put two effects in there that require nothing other than them watching. And as a reason why I remembered your trick is because it reminds me a little bit of like McDonald's Aces. And if you think of like when you watch David Copperfield do Grandpa's Aces,
so good.
you know, it's a great piece of magic to watch. And on my YouTube channel, I do a bit of a homage to David Copperfield's Grandpa's Aces.
Nice.
I call it the Prestige Aces. And it's on my YouTube channel. People can watch it there. It's done quite well, actually, considering I put it up there as a card trick, and I hadn't done anything before, really. And it's my version of McDonald's Aces with a bit of a kicker at the end. But that kind of magic works with Zoom. So for anyone that is panicking, you know, you don't have to be a mentalist reading minds through Zoom. You can just do some beautiful magic that they can watch. But you just need to maybe kind of like change the dynamic of it slightly, you know. Obviously, people can't examine things as much, which in some ways can be, you know, sometimes it's good to get people to examine things, but sometimes it can be a bit of a benefit that they can't examine things as well. We can use that to our advantage, right?
Well said. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're definitely all shifting and pivoting and trying, and I guess I'll kind of leave it at that with you is, you know, stay safe yourself, you know, over there. You know, you've got a beautiful family and quite a story. This has been, a lot of people have been saying as this has gone on, that this is one of their favorite chats that we've ever done. Obviously one of our longest, but it's been a fun ride because you have done so much for magic too. Not only do you respect it and have such a great insight on it, but you also just, you really have inspired a lot of people. I've even seen people here saying that your X performance inspired them to really take magic serious, you know, and it's just part of your legacy, which is a beautiful thing, man. So
can I the last thing that I'll say,
okay.
the last thing that I'll say,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
And that is this, right? Is I absolutely adore magic, all forms of magic, and I mentioned earlier on in this chat about, you know, I'll never be a quick change artist, but I love it. It's clever. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll never produce doves, but I love it. It's clever. It's amazing. It's, you know, card manipulation, all of those things. Every genre of magic. I mean, like, you know, like, I think children's magicians sometimes get a bit of a bad rap. But you know what? I have the utmost respect for a magician that can walk into a room and have 50 children and those parents all leave. Like, they're going to get some time off from being parents. They leave those 50 children in that room and you are able to stop them in their tracks and make them laugh and create memories in these children. I think that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So children, you know, so my love for magic is for magic in all of its shapes and forms. And I don't do all of them. I do some magic. I do a lot of mentalism. I do some magic and a lot of mentalism. But what I would say to anybody, and even the people that are thinking of exposing magic on their social media, the minute you expose magic, the secret of a magic trick, you kill the magic. You really do. And I always say this when someone asks me, and it's a knee-jerk question you get when you perform, and that is, you get people that say things like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Like, honestly, I mean, like, how do you do that? And you know, there's those clever lines that I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Yep.
So can I. I never use those. What I do is I say this. I say two things, and I'm talking to you as a human being, right? One, if I were to tell you what, we haven't got the time, right? But I promise you this: if I told you, there would be two reactions, possibly both. One would be, "Sorry, you've completely lost me. I have no idea what you're talking about." Or two, "Is that it?" Oh.
Yep.
But the most important thing I say to people is, do you remember the moment you found out Father Christmas didn't exist? Do you remember that moment? I do. Were you glad when you found out that Father Christmas didn't exist? No one is. No one's ever goes, thanks, you've cleared that mystery up, so he doesn't exist. It's a bit of your childhood dies when you find out that Father Christmas doesn't exist. Sorry, for any young people watching this, I'm joking. Father Christmas does exist. I'm just using this as a euphemism to explain about magic secrets. So Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy do exist. They're absolutely healthy and well, and he's coming to you in December. But that's the beauty of magic. Magic is in that secret. It relies on that secret. It's not all of it, but that is a big part of it. Don't ruin that. Don't take that magic, that astonishment away from someone. Because all those people that like you or follow you and all that, they're not experiencing magic anymore. And my journey in magic has been one of absolute joy, wonder. And I think as a magician, I think being a magician is one of the most selfless acts of entertainment. And what I mean by that, and I've said this before elsewhere, think about why you love magic, Luke. Like all the people watching this, think about how did you fall in love with magic? It's because you saw magic in one way or another, and you sort of went, oh my God, like what is this? I need to know more. And you learn and you love and whatever. But the more we learn about what it is that we love, magic, the less we will ever experience what it was that made us fall in love with it. We move further away from astonishment as magicians. And this is what I mean about it being a giving form of entertainment. As an artist, no matter how good I am at portrait painting or landscape painting or playing the piano or whatever, I can still fully sit back and listen to someone else play music and travel to that place of just being in that piece of music with them. It's very difficult to do that as magic. I watch Derren Brown and I absolutely adore his showmanship and the structure of his performances. There's not one thing he does that mystifies me anymore, sadly. But that's the choice that I made to become who I am and what I do. David Copperfield, absolutely adore the man and what he does. Flying, I remember watching that with my mum when it was screened on television. I think it was mid-90s over here in the UK. His flying routine, which is pioneering magic, absolutely taking a levitation to a whole new level. Lots of people have jumped on the shoulders since then, but for me, Copperfield's flying is just what a beautiful piece of theatre. But didn't fool me. I watched it, and as I watched it, I knew. I just went, yeah. And that's what I mean. I love it. I love the artistry, the beauty of it. But that mystery has gone forevermore. And that's the thing. Sorry, I think I may have just lost you a moment there. Sorry. The mystery has gone. Let me just quickly plug you in. I'm just a bit conscious of the battery on my device. Sorry.
Okay.
We're testing the grounds of... there you go. There you are. Perfect. I know we're wrapping up anyway. But, so, like the magic is... It can be the greatest hobby you will ever have. And I'll tell you why. I will never, ever know everything there is to know in magic. And just when I think I might be kind of all-encompassing, someone comes along and does something amazing, right? And just blows your mind. And so for that reason, magic is forever always giving. And we should never know it all. And your audience should never really know anything. And I do share some tricks with my audience, but it's okay. It doesn't ruin the mystery. It's like giving them a taste of it, a taste. Just here's a tiny little taste to kind of feed your inquisitive nature, your curious mind. Here's a little bit to taste. And I'll leave that with you. And if you choose to delve deeper, to learn more, I've given you all that I can give you, and that's what I will do. So I've got a deck of can't. So it's not self-promotion point, but I have this coming out very soon. This is the X 1X500 deck. It's a limited deck of playing cards that are X themed. People were asking me, is there anything X coming out that we can purchase? And originally I designed it just as a deck of playing cards. I thought, you know, a deck of cards, that'd be fun. And then I ended up doing a tutorial with it to teach you how to do some simple card magic with the things. Now, I teach some simple stuff. So the most you're ever going to get on there, if I said to you crosscut and Hindu, you'll get those on there. But again, it's an investment. You know, you're taking the time to invest in this, to take the time to purchase it. And I go on and on and on. The tutorial and the performance area, there's only 10 tricks on there that you can learn. I say only, but there's 10 good tricks, you know, that will fool a layperson on there. But there's 2 hours of tuition in a download. And that's what I mean. I will give that to you. And if all you ever do in Magic is that, you got to go, I know a couple of good, cool tricks I can do on my friends and the family, that's great. Run with it, do it, you know, don't expose it and enjoy it. If you buy that and you end up kind of going, oh my God, this is it, I love Magic, and you dive deeper and go further down the rabbit hole, then great, you know, great. But don't expose it. You know, don't expose it for exposing its sake. Only ever expose, and I think there's, you know, it's interesting the terminology that we use. I think there's teaching magic and there's exposing magic. Teach those who want to learn, but don't expose for the sake of exposing magic is just going, here you go, anybody, this is it. But teaching is different, and it's very important to draw the line between the two. Teaching magic is when you're actively trying to educate someone who may end up having an interest in magic. They may not. They might learn 1 or 2 tricks and then that's it. But so that's where I you know, don't expose. Teach if you want. Don't expose.
Well said. Very well said. And I hope that hits home. You know, I can only say things so many times myself, but when you have a pro like you saying it, maybe some of the people that it just went right over their head, maybe now it's going to stick a little bit. So I'm on board with you there 100%.
Cool.
It's officially Friday for you. So
oh wow, isn't it? It's 1:30. Oh my God, Luke, I'm so sorry. To everybody watching this, I apologize.
Don't apologize for anything, dude.
Luke's probably going, yeah, do an hour, and again, Spelmann just goes on and on and on. I do apologize.
I mean, and like I mentioned earlier, again and again, people have said this is one of their favorite chats, and they appreciate the insight. Some people are staying up till 2:30 in the morning where they are, they said. So just letting you know, like, while this has been long, it's been good, and it's been one of our best chats that we've ever done. So I'm glad that it was with you. This was really fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Luke.
Yeah, man.
And just to let people know as well, Luke says, you know, like a pro like you and stuff like that.
It's true.
Luke's he's a very, very, very astute magician. He knows what he's talking about.
Thank you.
Playing it all coy behind the camera.
I'm just the talking head. That's all I am.
Yeah, sure.
Don't mind the guy behind the curtain, right? Isn't that what they say?
Bless you. Well, it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure speaking with you, as always. And for anybody that's been watching this, I bless you. If you've made it all the way through to the end, there needs to be some prizes. Actually, I think, Luke, you've got was it?
I'll pick it the next day or so. I normally, so some of the people that couldn't join us live can enter too. A quick heads up if you guys are just joining us. I've seen a lot of you do it, but to win a free copy of this, we're going to do a download. Just drop a like and comment on this video, and you are automatically entered to win. We'll give away one of those just because we like you guys like that. So I've been giving reminders along the way, but if you haven't done it yet, that's all you got to do. So I can go through the list of people that have done that, pick a random winner, and I will tag you if you win, okay? So there we go. Sweet. All right, my friend, will you get some rest? I know it's late,
Thank you very much,
where you are.
You take care of yourself. Lots and lots of love to everybody. And everybody stay safe in these strange times.
Well said.
And just be the magic. Be the magic.
Well, for me and Marc Spelmann, I'm going to sign off too. So, guys, we're going to wave out here. Catch you next time. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Take care, guys.
Take care.